Welcome everyone. We will bring our April 2026 South Dakota Game Fish and Parks Commission meeting to order. Welcome to everybody that are with us today. We are live in Pierre from the Matthews Training Center building. And to those of you joining us online today, thank you for being with us. We've got some housekeeping that we do need to do, and we do this at the beginning of every single commission meeting. And one of those items is the conflict of interest disclosure, which I am required to read at the beginning of every meeting. So I'll go through that now. Now is the time for the commission to consider any written or verbal disclosures of conflicts of interest by current and former commission members. If any member of the commission has completed a written disclosure of a conflict of interest, the commission will consider the disclosure at this time. If any commission member wishes to verbally disclosure an interest in a contract as defined in SDCL 3-23-1, a direct benefit from a contract as defined in SDCL 3-23-1 and 3-23-2, or any other conflict with any matter on today's meeting agenda, please identify the contract or other matter in which you have a conflict of interest and generally describe the nature of the conflict. Also, if during the meeting you become aware that you have a conflict of interest with any proposed contract or other matter, please notify the chair of the conflict and generally describe the nature of the conflict. And last, if you disclose a conflict of interest, the commission must vote on whether the matter underlying the conflict is fair, reasonable, and not contrary to the public interest, and you may not participate in the commission's discussion and vote on the conflict. With that, do we have any commissioners that feel that they have a conflict of interest with any of the items on today's agenda? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you for that. Approval of the previous meeting minutes, which are available not only to the commission but to the public through the Game Fish and Park website. We've all had the opportunity to look through those. Any questions or comments about the about the minutes? Move to accept by Commissioner Call.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bartling. All those in favor of accepting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those minutes are approved. Additional commissioner salary days. Oftentimes, commissioners will work on behalf of the commission, the department, and the public, attending different stakeholder meetings. I believe we have a couple of commissioner salary days. Commissioner Nyberg, if you just want to share.
Yep, I sure can. Madam Chair, salary day, salary day, I attended my Senate confirmation hearing on March 3rd.
Very good. Commissioner Spring, I believe you have one salary day as well.
I have one salary day for company beer for the commission.
Very good. And then Commissioner Kirkaby.
Yeah, Commissioner, I had my confirmation hearing, and then I did come out for the mid-month meeting in person and met with Gail to work on my computer, and we looked over some elk maps and stuff also, so.
Very good.
we count that.
Any other salary days from the commission that they would like to bring up? Seeing none, we do need to vote on those salary days. We need a motion and a second.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bartling, seconded by Commissioner Nyberg. Questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Those salary days are approved. And with that, we are to item number 4, license list request, and I believe we'll hear from our staff attorney, Nick Michaels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The license list request for the commission today comes from an individual by the name of Thomas Druce. He is requesting the current active fishing and hunting licenses with addresses. And his stated purpose for this list is, quote, for a national sportsmen's group to advocate and promote pro-hunting and sportsman activities. This is not for commercial use to sell any products or merchandise, end quote. Because his stated purpose does not fall under any of the prohibitions in administrative rule that would give rise to the commission to deny this request, the department has no objection should the commission move forward in approving of sharing this license list request with Mr. Druce.
Any questions for Mr. Michaels? and/or comments? Seeing none, so at this time, the commission would need to move forward with denial or approval of the list.
Correct, Madam Chair.
Very good. With seeing no questions from the commission, we do need a motion and a second.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Cole, are you moving to approve on the denial?
Yes.
Very good. We have a motion to deny the request,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Nyberg. Any comments or questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of denial, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the request is denied. Thank you,
Madam Chair.
Mr. Michaels. All right, and we're gonna move around a little bit as we're waiting on some individuals to join us for the meeting. And it's my understanding that Commissioner Whitmire also may be joining us via Zoom. I'm looking to our team to see if he's been able to join. When he is on, we will let the public know that Commissioner Whitmire is with us. So with that, I'm going to jump down to item number 6, which is petition 251. Do we have anyone here in person that will be speaking? Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and move to that, Director Hirschman.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Secretary Roebling. Tom Kirschman, Director of the Wildlife Division. Today on your agenda, you do have 2 petitions, and the first one that we will address here is number 6 on your agenda. Petition number 251, it has to do with Black Hills elk hunting. This particular petition was brought forward by a gentleman that lives in this area of this particular hunting unit, Unit 4 in the Black Hills. He is here today, Mr. Clinton Rittberger. And Madam Chair, I guess what I would recommend is give the mic over to Mr. Rittberger to talk to the commission, explain a little bit his reasons for bringing forward the petition, and then I will jump in and speak on behalf of the department. But at this time, Mr. Rittberger, I give the microphone to you if you don't mind.
Very good, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the rest of the commission. So in regards to this petition, this is a request to move the dates of cow elk season. Currently, the season is approximately October 15th, and the rest for the 2 weeks remainder of October and the first 2 weeks of December for cow elk season only. So we have been seeing that the historical data for harvest on cow elk in this unit alone is generally, it's 37% is probably the most prominent figure, and then generally it can be down around 20-25% in the last 5 years. What we're seeing right now is that the habitat community in this area is changing dramatically. It's becoming more of smaller parcels being purchased, and so housing is starting to become a prominent consistency in that area. And then we also see larger tracts of land being sold where that hunting is not a privilege. It's very secluded and probably is not even allowed. It's private land. This unit is, I'm going to say probably, I'd be very confident to say probably 90% is private, and might even be 95% is private land. I'm not against the landowner's rights to seclude hunting or not allow hunting at all. That's not an issue, as everybody has their right. But what we see is that it becomes a nuisance then. The animals, the large wildlife, they take this as a refuge, and then it becomes a burden for the rest of the hunters to try to harvest. So my request is to open up the first 2 weeks of October along with bull season to make the opportunity more advantageous. The last part of the season, of cow season, is in December, the first 2 weeks, and it becomes frustrating for the majority of the land of hunters from the East River to want to drive all the way back out and take the opportunity to shoot something, and so they generally want something consistent and to make it worth their time. And so we're seeing that later season in December doesn't always have the best opportunity. Because again, the burden to drive all the way from East River back out to West River. So my hope is that this would be more advantageous to open up the season in early October to cows. When the opportunity is there, that we see the later part of October, the seasons, the migration route, you might say, of the elk is disrupted. It becomes more, it's not uniform anymore, and so it's a hardship. So to try and increase the elk harvest, especially on cows, I would request that we open up in the first 2 weeks of December. In October.
Any questions from the commission at this point? See no questions, I think what we'll do, we'll hear from the department, and then should we have any questions, we'd like for you to stick around.
Thank you.
Again, Tom Kirschman, Director of the Wildlife Division, and thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate the petitioner coming all the way from western South Dakota to be here today to speak to you in person. Just a couple of quick comments that Mr. Rittberger mentioned as well. So what the petition is asking for is specifically to Unit 4 of the Black Hills elk hunting season. Quickly on a little background, as he mentioned it, the Unit 4 itself is primarily a private land hunting unit within the Black Hills. And so access and opportunity to harvest an elk in Unit 4 is quite honestly driven by working with, creating those relationships with landowners in that specific unit. Whether you have a bull tag or a cow tag, it really doesn't matter. So it's working hand in hand and closely with those landowners, and we have a lot of those landowners that do work with our agency and provide that access and opportunity for the harvest of elk. Right now, as he stated, when you look at the season dates for Unit 4, like the rest of the Black Hills, on October 1 for the firearm season is when the bull hunting can begin. And it's for bull hunting only for the first 2 weeks, and then the cow hunting opportunity, those cow tags begin on October 15th through the end of October, and then the first 2 weeks of December as well. So you do have right now, there's 2 weeks where it's just for the bull hunters, and then those second 2 weeks of October, it's the overlap of bull hunters and cow hunters. Now again, why I bring that up, it's just important to understand what the situation and scenario is on the ground as we speak for that hunting opportunity. But again, from the standpoint, this unit is quite significantly different than the other units in the Black Hills. Obviously, every unit in the Black Hills has some private land ownership in it. But when you look at the proportion or percentage of private land ownership, Unit 4 is by far the highest level of private land ownership and the importance of working with those landowners. So when this petition came forward, we had a lot of conversation over this. This was actually discussed briefly. Every year, our staff actually invite landowners to a couple of landowner meetings in the Black Hills to talk about elk hunting seasons, season structures, license allocations, those types of things, see how things are going. And this was a topic that was brought up. They had a short conversation about it, and then ultimately it was decided by Mr. Ripper and some other landowners in their conversations to submit a petition to bring forward to you to make this slight modification to the dates for the allowance of cow hunting. So hence what you see in front of you in terms of the petition. Our recommendation to you right now would be to accept this petition and move it into the rule promulgation process, primarily from the standpoint of obtaining additional public input on this. When you look at the grand scheme, this year there will be 40 bull tags and 40 cow tags in Unit 4. So what this really impacts are the 40 individuals that would draw a cow tag, which would allow them or provide them an extra 2 weeks of time frame to be harvesting those cows under some of those scenarios that the petitioner just described to you. And again, in those tags then too, the bull tags will go out to landowners plus those tags that go out to the general public. It would create that scenario of overlap like we discussed here, like the second 2 weeks of October right now. But again, the really important component of this whole conversation is Unit 4. It doesn't matter what time of the year you're there hunting during the elk hunting season. It is about communicating and working with those landowners to obtain those opportunities and the access to get in there to harvest, whether it's a bull or a cow elk. And so because of those reasons, we would recommend to you that you go ahead, accept the petition. We will work to put the public notice out and have then an official public hearing at your May commission meeting held there at Custer State Park. And that's where you would hear your official public input from the public, the hunters, the landowners, whoever else would want to provide input. And that would be the place for your final decision, if you decide to go that route. So we will certainly stand by and answer any other questions that you may have, but our recommendation to you would be to move this petition forward and at least obtain some additional public input on this one.
Thank you, Director. Questions from the commission and or comments?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Spring.
on this issue, I had probably 6 phone calls from landowners in that unit, and everyone was for this change, and I personally know this unit quite well, and I think in order to harvest more of the cows, which is needed, because there's a lot of elk in that unit, the numbers are high, I think we need to go along with it to try to bring the numbers down to a reasonable level.
Very good. Any other questions, comments from the commission? We do need to move on this particular petition today.
Right, Madam Chair, so it would come down to your decision to either accept the petition, move it forward for the rule promulgation process, or deny, and then provide the justifications or reasons for denial.
Move to accept.
Move to accept by Commissioner Call, second by Commissioner Spring. Any comments on that motion? Very good. And just for the record, we do have Commissioner Whitmire is joining us virtually as well. With that, we will move forward with a vote. All those in favor of accepting the petition, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So it will move forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we will work on putting together a public notice that would announce this rule change, because that's what it is. And then it'll be part of your public hearing at your May commission meeting.
Very good, very good. So for our next item, it's my understanding we may have more than one individual to speak to number 7, the walleye, and petition number 252, is that correct? I know we've got a couple in here. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to jump down to item number 13. So then when it's time to take up item number 7, we should be at the time frame where we are for open forum, so we can hear from more than one individual. So with that, we'll move to item number 13 on our agenda, Lake Francis case update, which will be a presentation.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, and Secretary Roebling. Oh, thank you. My name is Amy Gebhardt, and I'm a fish biologist out of the Chamberlain office. And today I'll be presenting the Francis case fisheries update. To begin with though, some just fun facts about Lake Francis Case. It is 107 miles long, and it is known as the 11th largest reservoir in the United States. We conduct our gillnet surveys in September, and we put out 75 monofilament gillnets. They're 80 feet long, 6 feet deep. And we put them in 8 to 99 feet of water. And the reason why we put them in 8 feet instead of 6 feet is just because of boat traffic, and we don't want them going over it. And if you can see over there, you can see the dark points. Those are the 75 randomly placed gillnets that were set this year, and those points change every year. Do I do this, or do you, Chris? I'll do it. Sorry about that. And here is the walleye abundance that we have collected with our gill nets each year. As you can see, there's only 9 years of data, and that is due to the fact that prior to 2017, we used a different type of gill net, and those data aren't comparable to our new data. However, the trends that we see with them in relationship to annual runoff are the same. And this trend that I'm referring to is this red line is annual runoff, and we see when we have higher annual runoff, we tend to have higher walleye abundance. And the walleye abundance is the bars. Age 0 is orange, less than 15 inches is yellow, the blue is 15 to 20 inches, and that green is representing 20-inch and above fish. On average, since 2017, using these gill nets, we get about 4.6 walleye per net. This year was slightly higher, with just above 4.8 walleye per net. Now, this figure is just breaking down those bars, specifically 2025's walleye catches, into the lake frequency histogram. And here you can see that we have a dashed bar on the left, that's a 15 inches, and then the right dashed bar is showing 20 inches. The reason for those is in Lake Francis Case, we have a minimum length limit throughout the year of 15 inches, except in July and August, those are taken off and you can keep any length. And then we also have the rule of 1 over 20, so that's why those are there. With that being said, I'd like to point out that 45% of our catch in 2025 in our gill nets were above that 15 inches, with 9% of our catch being above 20 inches. And the other 55% are obviously below, and you can see that there's some really good year classes coming up into that fishery that we should see in a few years for anglers to keep and catch. Now this is looking at walleye electrofishing age 0, and the reason why we do electrofishing age 0 in the fall is that our gill nets do not adequately sample those smaller individuals, and so to get abundance index, we like using electrofishing in the fall to look at our age 0 walleye. On average, we normally see just under 150 walleye per hour. Now these are specifically age 0 individuals when we electrofish. This year was below average. However, we're not too concerned at this. Just due to Mother Nature, we weren't able to get out nearly as early, and so water temperatures were below what we normally like to electrofish at, which causes those younger fish to move off the shallower shorelines, going to deeper, warmer water. Also, you can see the year classes of 24, 23, and 22 are extremely strong, and just having those 3 really strong year classes can sometimes suppress those younger age 0s, and that could be part of what was happening here. And even though we saw, lower abundance this year in our electrofishing, this isn't too much of a concern to us because we always see that reproduction in Francis Case. There doesn't seem to be missing age 0 year classes. And so while it's low, it is still very present in the fishery. Now this figure I put together, and this is those 75 randomly selected gill nets. And this is a temperature gradient showing where we caught highest density, lowest density walleyes. The red dots are showing highest density. Highest net was 17 walleyes in one net. Orange is considered moderate, and then that low is the yellow color. And we didn't have any nets with 0. So the low is representing 1 to 3 fish in a net. Now you can see the main takeaway from here is that we have the moderate and high throughout the whole reservoir. It is slightly higher in that middle area, but we have good catches throughout the whole reservoir. With that being said, this is only a snapshot of what we sampled in September. And so, while fish are there, they don't always bite either. But this is what we caught in our gill nets in September. Now this figure is looking at walleye condition. Condition is just how we evaluate how fat or skinny a fish is. And we set our gill nets in September, and we like to see our condition around that 80 or above. Normally Francis Case is about 81 to 91, and this year was no different with it being at 84. Now you do see some higher years, 2010, 2019, and 2024. I'd like to point out as some higher conditions than what we normally see, and that's just due to the fact of higher abundance. Now, when you have higher abundance, there's more prey out there for those walleyes to consume, and sometimes we have the artifact of there's a ton of prey out there, and so fish don't want to bite. Now this figure is looking at walleye age structure. How we get age structure for our fish is we pull otoliths. On the right is showing some otoliths. These are just ear stones, and they have rings like a tree that you age. Typically, a age structure figure will have higher numbers of those younger year classes, and then they taper out as they get older, with those individuals leaving the system through various reasons like angler exploitation, natural mortality, things like that. And this looks very, very typical of what you would normally see. I would also like to point out, we don't have any missing year classes here. They're all being represented, showing that there is some good recruitment and good reproduction and consistent reproduction at Lake Francis Case. And one really strong year class I'd like to point out is age 6. That is from the 2019 year. They were spawned and were born in 2019. High water flowing in there, higher nutrients, bigger prey base for those individuals, and you can see it has stayed strong throughout the fishery through time. Now this figure is looking at length at age. So with that same data that I just showed you on the previous slide, this is just looking at how long those fish were at those specific ages. And this really helps us monitor the growth within the fishery. And as a general rule, Lake Francis Case likes seeing walleye at that 15 inches or above at age 3. And since we have that minimum length most of the year, I did put the dashed line at 15 inches. And then 1/20, I put that dashed line at 20 inches. And the general rule, like I said, was age 3, we like to see them at 15 inches. Our 10-year average and in 2025 gill nets, we are well above that at the moment. At 16.5 inches is our average age 3 right now that we caught in September, so very good growth. I'd also like to point out that in 2025 gill nets, the average 7-year-old is reaching 20 inches. So that's very good to see. Now this figure is specifically looking at those 3-year-olds. And this is more of a figure that's looking at growth through time. And like I previously said, we like seeing those 3-year-olds get 15 inches by the age 3. And most years they do. On occasion, the late 2000s, you can see them dip down. But as a general rule, walleye are reaching above that 15 inches at age 3 in Lake Francis Case. And this year is doing very well with an average of 16 and a half. Now changing gears a little bit and looking at Lake Francis Case angler use and angler harvest. This is between April to July that we do this survey, and that's due to the fact that that's where our highest angler use is. And specifically, May and June are when we see our highest use on our reservoir. Now, looking at fishing use, it usually ranges from about 400,000 to about 800,000, with an average of 526,000. This year was slightly lower at 471,000, but well within what we typically see on Lake Francis Case. Now this is looking at number of walleye caught per hour. And over the 30 years, we average about 1 walleye caught per hour. Specifically, it's 0.96. This year, we were right at that with 0.95. So again, almost 1 walleye per hour. And to put that into perspective, across the walleye range, across the walleye range, normally the benchmark is about 0.3 fish an hour. And so on average, Francis Case is almost 3 times that. And this last year, it still was 3 times that. So our fishery for our anglers is very good. And this last figure is looking at walleye harvest, and specifically the walleye that were kept. Now, over the last 30 years, 156,000 walleye on average are kept each year, with this year being slightly lower at 96,000 walleye kept. Now, anglers catch a lot more than they keep, and the average that is kept is usually around 381,000, and this year was just shy of 353,000. And again, this is well within what we normally would typically see on this reservoir. And to summarize what I presented today, looking at specifically our lake surveys, our walleye abundance is looking really good, above average, and we have average growth and condition. While we did see age 0 walleye below what we typically see, this is not a concern at the moment of ours. We see consistent reproduction, as well as there may be a few factors affecting that lower age 0 this year, with those 3 very strong year classes above it could be suppressing them, as well as just Mother Nature was playing with us, and we really struggled to get on the water before those water temperatures dipped and those fish could have moved off. And then looking at creel, over the 30-year average, it's almost 1 fish a year, and again, this year we were right at that. And so Lake Francis Case is looking pretty darn good. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Very good, good presentation. Any questions for Amy? I do have one question. I wanted you to go back. There was a slide, the number of walleyes kept, right there. 2019, there's nothing in that bar. Is there a reason for that?
Through the chair, sorry about that. 2020 that is, and that is just due to that was the COVID year, and so we opted not to do a survey during that year.
So then my next question is, and I apologize if there's no answer for it, but good presentation, I think, as a commission and a department, good information to know. So then what's the next step? When you pull information like this together, where do you take it in terms of management for Lake Francis Case? Are there plans in place to continue to manage the way you are? Then you look at increasing stock, when you stock? I'm just curious, what's the next step data like this is collected?
I guess through the chair, I might opt towards either Chris Long Henry or John Lott.
Very good.
My chair.
I'll just sit next to you. Madam Chair,
Yeah.
Commissioner. So we use this data to make sure we're on track with our regulations on Francis Case. We're continually evaluating to make sure harvest is in an appropriate level, but then also if stocking is needed. Now, we do try to manage for the long term, so if we have a regulation that works for 9 out of 10 years, we're not, changing the regulation and constantly chasing a different target. So, this set of regulations has been working on Francis Case, so we haven't had to change, but that is always an option if we see that needed. One other step with this data is we also share it out to the public. We've put some public meetings out on YouTube that have gotten a lot of good feedback, and the public does seem to appreciate those. So it's for us, but it's also gathering information for the public.
I appreciate that. Thank you for both of those. Yep, very good. Any other questions for Amy? Secretary Roebling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question, I guess, in regards to other species besides walleyes. This microphone is touchy. Put it over there. Thank you. Very good presentation. I just wanted to ask a question in regards to other species within Lake Francis Case. Any updates on bass populations or other species that were collected or monitored in those gill nets as you were doing the walleye work?
Through the chair, our sauger populations are looking very good, similar, not quite as good as our walleye, but I mean, trending upward. Our bass electrofishing was looking pretty good this year as well. Do you have anything else?
Through the chair, I would also add that we have a trophy paddlefish season on Francis Case that is very popular. That season, I don't have the numbers in front of us, but has been going very well. A couple years ago, we added additional tags to provide more opportunity for that season, and last year was, I guess I would say it was an average season, if my memory serves.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Kirkeby.
I'm not familiar with, I think I hear you say electric fishing. Is that like telephoning catfish or something?
Through the chair is putting electricity in the water.
Okay, and then the fish come out?
Yep.
And you count them? Okay,
You scoop them up, yep.
And they survive. You can release them.
and they live through it? Okay.
Most
You're doing it right.
Well said, Secretary. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for those questions. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Very good presentation. We appreciate both of you. Thank you. So in an attempt to try to save our open forum for the 2 p.m. hour, what we're going to do to help make that happen is we'll move to number 14 now, walleye spawning with Jake Davis, who I believe is joining us virtually. Jake, I think what we're going to do, Mr. Secretary brought up a great point. We've got a lot of online individuals that will need to hear for this meeting. So at this time, we are going to be at ease until we can work through some of these technical difficulties. So we will be at ease at least until 2 p.m. Thank you for your patience. It looks like technically the sun is shining on us for right now, so we're going to move forward. We're going to have to change things around again to stay on time here, and with that, we're going to move to the public hearing. The portion of the meeting is designated for public comment on our finalizations only, and Nick Michaels will explain what those finalizations are. So if you want to speak to those items, this is the time to do that, Mr. Michaels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the Chair said, we will be addressing each of the finalizations in turn. If a member of the public wishes to address the commission, they can let me know at this time as I go through them. You will have 3 minutes to address the commission, at which point I will let you know that your time is finished and you do need to wrap up your comments. We'll first address agenda item number 8, which is antelope and turkey finalizations. Is there anyone present here in person who wishes to address the commission specifically on the antelope and turkey finalizations? Seeing no one, is there anyone present online who wishes to address the commission on antelope and turkey finalizations? If so, please indicate by raising your hand. Seeing no one, we'll move then to number 9, deer. Is there anyone here present in person who wishes to address the commission on the deer finalization? Seeing no one, is there anyone present online who wishes to address the commission on the deer finalization? If so, please indicate by raising your hand. Seeing no one there, we'll move then to number 10, the elk finalization. We'll hear first from Ron Kolbeck.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Secretary Roebling, Ron Kolbeck, Salem, South Dakota, representing the South Dakota Bow Hunters Association. You may remember a year ago I was here and had some questions and concerns about the number of antlerless elk licenses that were being issued at that time, and it was proposed to be for 2 years. I wanted to come back here today because I see you're reducing that back ahead of schedule, and appreciate that, and would encourage you to accept the licenses as proposed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present in person who wishes to address the commission on the elk finalizations? Seeing no one, is there anyone present online who wishes to address the commission on the elk finalizations? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, we are moving on then to number 11, waterfowl finalizations. Is there anyone present here in person who wishes to address the commission on the waterfowl finalizations? Seeing no one, is there anyone present online who wishes to address the commission on the waterfowl finalizations? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing no one there, we'll move to the last finalization, which is bighorn sheep. Is there anyone present here in person who wishes to address the commission on the bighorn sheep finalizations? Seeing no one, is there anyone present online who wishes to address the commission on bighorn sheep finalizations? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing no one, Madam Chair, I believe we can end the public hearing portion of this commission meeting.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Michaels. Now with that, we'll move to the open forum. This portion of the meeting is designated for public comment on petitions, proposals, and other items of interest not on the agenda. And just like previous, Mr. Michaels will help guide as we work through this section.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Same format to our members of the public. You will have 3 minutes to address the commission on whatever topic of importance you wish to address. Mr. Kolbeck, we had you listed twice. Did you wish to address the commission again?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Secretary Roebling, Ron Kolbeck again, South Dakota Bow Hunters Association. Wanted to talk to you about the elk action plan that's in draft format at this time. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to have representation in the stakeholder group. Jason Stone with the association, who's now our new president-elect of the association, was on that stakeholder group. But I want to talk about the action plan, and a lot of good things, I think, with the action plan as we see it, with Black Hills, and particular. Really appreciate the minor change, seems like a minor change, but I think it's an important change in increasing the optimum carrying capacity of the Black Hills from 8,000 to 9,000. Allows us to try to hold the population where it's at today, which we think is a good thing. We think the elk herd is very good in the Black Hills today. The other part of that plan, or one of the objectives, is to shift the allocation of licenses slightly to increase archery opportunities from 25% of tags to 30% of tags, which of course, as an organization, we support. It does several things for us. One is, because of popularity, an elk tag has become the hardest, actually elk tag has become the hardest tag in the state to draw. And so this should help a little bit. The other thing it does is it actually puts a few more hunters in the field to reach the same harvest objectives, because archery is not quite a success rate, high success rate. We can actually have more people in the field and create more opportunities. Also recognize that there's unique issues outside of the Black Hills, and really encourage you to continue to work with the landowners and all the stakeholders groups outside the hills, and obviously a totally different management objectives outside of the hills, and we recognize that. We support the plan as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll hear next from Jim Hutmacher.
You've done that pretty well.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for taking time today, all the commissioners, Secretary Rowling, for taking time just to listen. I'm here for the walleye change petition that's coming up. I'm not a professional fisherman. I grew up in the Chamberlain Oklahoma area since I was little. I remember when the limit was 8, we had no slot size, and then it changed and it went downhill. And it seems the last 10 years that things have gotten just a little worse. It starts out pretty good. We have good fishing in April, May, and by the time Labor Day gets around and we get done with all the tournaments and everything, it's really hard to catch anything that's over 13 inches. And a lot of the other people that come from Sioux Falls, Minnesota, Iowa fishing all go up to either Lake Sharp or go on to Lake Oahe. They don't stop anymore. It would be nice for us to be able to go out and take family and friends and go out, and go fish one day and be able to catch a limit of fish. But it's getting very hard to do, and it's almost seems to be a waste to go out and catch 13 inches, because even if you could keep them, there's nothing there, and we don't keep them anyway. So it just would be nice to do. I don't know if the change is the exact thing that we need to do on that. I think it's a good start. It would be nice to try that and see how it worked a few years. We're not cutting into a lot of the recreational business that goes on in those first 3 months of the year, but we could maybe save some numbers and see if we can get something done. We can grow our population and extend our fishing season a little farther. I'd answer any questions if you got them.
Very good. Any questions from the commission? Seeing none, we appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you much.
Next, hear from Marty Hansen. He's not online. Okay. He's currently not online, so we'll come back if he does make himself present. How about Janet Moore?
Hello, I'm here online.
Okay, go ahead. Begin whenever you're ready, Janet.
Okay, yeah, Jeanette Moore, Rapid City. I want to express my deep dismay that this commission has decided to implement a coyote bounty program without giving the public any notice or opportunity to comment, and in violation of open meeting laws. At the March 3rd meeting, I know you heard testimony in regards to the wildlife damage management plan about the importance of keeping coyote families stable and not disrupting them, because a stable coyote family, in those stable families, only the dominant pair is reproducing, and they're a lot less likely to prey on farm animals. But when the coyote family is broken apart due to predator control methods, the disturbance causes more coyotes to reproduce at younger ages, and to be more likely to attack livestock. And I think everybody here is, smart enough to understand how that works, but you didn't take any time to research the validity of our claims, or research the literature, or consult with wildlife biologists, or generally understand the biology and ecology of these species. I've worked in grassland ecology with cattle and bison family ranches. I've interviewed dozens of ranchers across the state about their interactions with wildlife. And I haven't talked to anyone who's had complaints about problems with predators. Excuse me, if they had, I would have recommended predator-friendly ranching techniques such as range riding, flagging fences, strategic grazing patterns, and proper carcass management. If a rancher does have a verified loss, they are eligible for compensation through the federal livestock indemnity program. So there's just a lot of reasons why the state shouldn't be wasting so much of our taxpayer money attacking these predators. There's currently a number of nonprofits with funding to help ranchers coexist with and promote wildlife in South Dakota, such as World Wildlife Fund's Sustainable Ranching Initiative. The Audubon Society has their Prairie Management Toolbox, and there's many others. You can look at the Dakota Conservation Network to find those. So the state should be working with all these organizations to enhance wildlife, not to destroy it. When I was a kid, we had sheep. We often heard coyote howling and saw them in our field, but we never had a problem with predator attacks. We had a dog bonded to the sheep. Excuse me, at the edge of our field, there was a strip of forest that went up this valley, and it was this big wildlife corridor. And sometimes when the coyotes were howling, my sisters and I, we would run along the edge of the field and the forest and howl with the coyotes, and they would howl back at us. And this is a really special memory for me, so I'm happy I got to grow up with coyotes. Predators keep wildlife in balance. No predators mean no balance. We've got to start protecting our predators. And then lastly, I just wanted to ask that you would please do more to promote lead-free ammunition. Almost every eagle that comes to the Black Hills Raptor Center is suffering from lead poisoning, which is a horrific way to die. Every year they're seeing an uptick in lead-poisoned eagles. It's illegal
You have
to
reached
kill
your 3 minutes, Ms.
directly,
Moore.
but it's still permitted to kill eagles indirectly through lead-contaminated gut piles. And alternatives to lead ammo exist, so please do more to help get lead out of hunting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present here in person who wishes to address the commission during the open forum here? Seeing no one, is there anyone else present online who wishes to address the commission? Is Marty Hansen online now? He's not, okay. With that, Madam Chair, I hand things back over to you.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Michaels, and thank you to those that took the time to join us online and here in person. We appreciate the time and words and thoughts that you shared. With that, we are going to move to item number 7. This is the petition 252 Walleye and Sauger Limit. We'll have Director Kirschman come up to begin the process, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Tom Kirschman, Director of the Wildlife Division. Next item on your agenda is number 7, our second petition on your agenda today, number 252. This has to do with walleye and sauger limit on Lake Francis Case. And I think before we get into some information to share from the department itself, we would ask the petitioner, Mr. Chemla, to come up here and provide some background information for his reading or reasons and Ryan's justification for submitting the petition to you. So, sir, microphone's yours.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm Wes Schmello from Chamberlain, South Dakota. Lived there all my life, fished there all my life. I've fished tournaments, I've guided, I recreation fish with my kids, with my family. In the recent years, we've seen a great uptick of spring fishing, particularly February, and March. As soon as our boat ramp gets put in the water, it's out there. Everybody can see the day the boat ramp goes in. We're starting to see hundreds, up to 300 boats a day in these months. The fish are in their wintering areas. They're very easy to catch. Guys are having awesome success. It's great. It's awesome for our community. I live off of C-Source sales. That's where my paycheck comes from. What I'm asking is a 2 fish limit during them first 3 months when the nice days do show up, to try and protect some fish later into the year, into the May, into the June, when kids are not in school anymore. They can go out with their families. They can enjoy seeing the high success rate that these guys are having early in the year. It's very evident to look at any pictures, anybody's website, and see the number of quality fish that the lake has. These guys do a great job. I'm not saying they don't. I think our fishery is awesome. What I do think is happening is a lot of legal fish are leaving before the general population of people are getting to catch them. Some of the population, they don't care if they catch 1 or 3 fish. Maybe they'd be more excited to go fishing if they caught 4 or 5 fish that were big enough to keep. Later in the year, that 0.3 number of legal fish per hour, maybe we can raise that. I think it's a step in the right direction. I wanna see just as many anglers coming that are coming now, spread out over a bigger period. The May and June used to be the 2 best months to come and fish Chamberlain. I mean, I fished Chamberlain all my life. And them were the months that everybody wanted to come fishing. Now, it's proven in our own community, there's anywhere from 10 to 30 guides fishing out of Chamberlain on a daily basis. By mid-May, them guys are all going to Lake Sharp or farther to catch their fish for their clients. There's a reason they're leaving. It's not because the fish are still there. They're not leaving their own hometown to go fish somewhere else if the fish are still there big enough to keep on a consistent basis. And that's is my biggest push, is to spread this out so that in May and June, when the general population can get out, kids are out of school, they can go and join the lake, to spread that out so that there's more legal sized fish for people to catch. I run a small fishing league out of Chamberlain. There's 6 or 8 of us, maybe 10 boats a night. We struggle most nights to put 4 fish in the boat in a 3-hour period that are quality. We can scrape out 15.5 inches. You can catch all the 12, 13, 14 inches you want, but them bigger fish just don't seem to be there. I think the lake is in great shape. It produces tons of numbers of fish. I don't disagree with that. Like I said, everything they're doing is awesome. I would just like to see it stretched out over a longer period of time for more people to enjoy.
Very good, thank you, Wes. Any questions at this point for Wes? I think we'll hear from the department first, and then if questions come up, we'll have you revisit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would ask to have Chris Longhenry come up. We put together a very short PowerPoint just to share some background information. Had a lot of internal conversations about this particular petition. Obviously a high level of interest when it comes to walleye angling in South Dakota, anywhere along the Missouri River system. So just believe that it was appropriate to maybe share a little bit more information and background before we get into the overall discussion. So if I may, we'll have Chris provide you a short background PowerPoint on this topic.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Secretary. I'm gonna share some information on Francis' case that relates to the petition. We already saw some information from our general surveys that Amy provided, but I tried to tailor this PowerPoint to the question at hand. Just to give a little overview, Francis Case is an early destination fishery. It's one of the first places you can launch a boat in South Dakota. It's well known as an early spring fishery, and it's right off I-90, so easy to get to during those late winter, early spring months. Early access is generally limited to a few boat ramps, and the anglers are concentrated on the upper third of the reservoir on average. This fishery is also highly weather dependent. Before anglers can get out, we need the ice to come off the river, and that can happen mid-March. It might happen as late as almost into April, but it also does happen, like this year, mid-February. So this year is probably more an exception than the norm, but this year was a very warm year, and we have seen an increase in activity in the Chamberlain area. So the concerns that were brought up are not new for this area. We've had them in the past, and previously from 2004 through 2008, aquatic staff did a creel survey from January through March, looking at this late winter, early ice fishing use of the reservoir. The creel survey did encompass the area from the Platte Winter Bridge all the way up to Fort Thompson, and like I said, was from January through March, so it does line up very well with the zone of the lake and the time frame that the petition is asking for. During those 5 years, we averaged 96,000 angler hours during those 3 months. The peak for 1 year was 14,000 angler hours during those 3 months. Now, just to compare that and put it into perspective, during the April through July period of those years, if you look at that left graph, that left little bar is the fishing pressure, the angler hours that was from January through March, and then the right bar is the fishing pressure that occurred from April through July that year. We saw a similar pattern with the walleye harvest. Over the 5 years, it averaged 3,500 and then had a maximum for those 3 months of 7,500 walleyes and sauter harvested. For the April through July period, during those same years, we averaged just over 120,000 walleyes harvested. So in the big picture for Francis Case during that time frame, the January through March fishing pressure and harvest was a low percentage of the total. We do acknowledge that some years it may be higher than this, some years it may be lower, and it would be nice to have a creel survey that runs year-round so we can capture all fishing pressure. However, as resource managers, we need to be prudent with our time and money. And these creel surveys are very expensive, so we have narrowed it down to the April through July period. So another thing that we've done in the past that might help provide some information on this topic is walleye movement in Francis Case. Walleyes generally in reservoirs and river systems have spring migrations or spring movements towards spawning areas. Generally that's upstream. Francis Case is no different. This figure that you're looking at is walleyes that have been tagged in the Chamberlain area and then where they were caught, so the blue bars would be the Chamberlain area by month. And so this is an 11-year project that went on, and this is all 11 years combined. But what we see is after tagging, 100% of the tag returns are coming back from the Chamberlain, or the upper zone of Francis Case in April. Through the summer months, that percentage decreases as the fish disperse throughout the reservoir, and it bottoms out in September when only 15% of the tag returns are coming back from the upper end of the reservoir. But then, starting in October, November, we see those fish start moving back upstream to the upper end of the reservoir. So this just shows that these walleyes are mixing throughout the reservoir, and trying to manage to keep walleyes in a certain area at a certain time may not work. Alright, so this is our length frequency distribution. Amy had this up there, so I won't go into too many details about it. But one thing that we can see here is that 45% of the fish are over 15 inches. That gray bar is the percent of the portion of that population that likely grew past the 15 inches during that year. One thing that the other thing that we can say with this is everything right of that gray bar has been available for anglers throughout the year. Another thing that I want to point out here is we have 2 year classes that are just below the 15-inch mark, and so as those fish start growing through the summer, they are going to start contributing to the angler catches, and can sometimes give the appearance of less big fish in the system, but really what's happening is these younger fish are recruiting to the fishery and becoming more frequent in the catches. So sometimes this ratio of keeper to short fish is more determined by recruitment of these young, strong year classes moving into the fishery than actual removal of the larger fish. Because we can see the larger fish are still in this sample, and then this occurred in September after the fishing season of 2025. So another thing that can influence angler catch rates is prey fish abundance. Amy touched on it a little bit, but during years when we have high prey fish numbers, we also see high condition of fish. And in conjunction with high condition, which is just how plump they are relative to their length, we also see lower catch rates. And the opposite is true. When we have lower prey fish numbers, we see lower condition and also higher catch rates. But there's also a seasonal variation that occurs in Francis Case. Francis Case is a gizzard shad prey base, and gizzard shad mostly die off each winter. So in the springtime, there's relatively little food for walleyes, so that's one reason why we see the high catch rates in the spring. And then through the summer, as the new gizzard shad hatch and start growing into sizes that the walleye can target, we'll see catch rates decline. And that normally occurs mid-June to mid-July. So that is something also that impacts angler catch rates throughout the year. One last thing that I wanted to point out for the commission is we just started an exploitation project on Francis Case this year. I think you have seen some presentations from the Fort Pierre office on Lake Hawaii or Lake Sharp about some of the exploitation work that they've done. What we're going to do is we're going to tag 1,500 walleyes each year in Francis Case for the next 3 years, and we'll be able to estimate the angler exploitation of the walleye population for the whole year, and then also we can break it out by month and look at monthly exploitation rates. And this will also allow us to further examine that walleye dispersion after the spawn, that movement stuff that I was talking about earlier. So we'll get some updated information on both the impact to the population and some of the walleye movement patterns. So that is what I have for you. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Very good. Any questions from the commission at this time? Commissioner Spring.
In that period of, say, March till fall, till September. You were talking about fish growing into that category. Say a 13-inch fish, what's its size and that from March to September? Did it grow how much?
So, I'm gonna flip back to that figure. Yeah, our average length at age for age 2 fish in September is right around that 13-inch mark. And then our average length at age 3 is, in September, has been around 16. So they're growing about 3.5 inches during that year from age 2 to age 3. So they will be, the primary growing season on Francis Case is after the shad show up, so it's mostly a little bit of June, but July, August, and September. And so that's gonna be the time when they're putting on the most length in Francis Case.
Additional questions from the commission? Secretary Roebling?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Chris, quick question in regards to the creel survey data you collected in January, February, March. Can you go back to that slide? I believe it's a bit outdated. Do we have plans to look at, I guess, updating that information, or what are your thoughts with that?
Yeah, it's probably time to at least consider it. That is 20-year-old data. We could use updated information on that. The exploitation work will provide some information on that. It won't provide us direct estimates of harvest during those time frames, but it will provide percent of the population that's being harvested during those times. But yeah, that's something that we'll definitely be considering.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I would recommend that we do consider that to really address some of the questions here at hand for us today. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the commission? Chris, I do have one. I want to make sure I'm understanding something. So when you talk about the movement of the fish, and then you talk about how their food in the winter months is less, and so those walleye are going to be more eager to there's a better bite then, and then it will lessen out as the shad are growing. So that's, from what I'm hearing, that could be some of the reason those size limits that we're hearing from the petitioner today are the size that they are.
Yeah, and that's this side. Well, so he's asking for a reduced daily limit to help keep fish around till later in the year. And really, there are other things that may be influencing catch rates later in the year. And that's what I tried to show the commission here.
Secretary Roebling.
This data is very interesting. I guess in regards to movement, that is fascinating. Where we've marked a whole bunch of walleyes. You know, in the Chamberlain area, we watch those walleyes go, I don't know, many miles. I mean, do you have any idea as to what type of migration we do see with these types of fish? I mean, are they moving 10, 15, 20, 30 miles? Or can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
So this data is 100% fish that were tagged in the Chamberlain area. All those red bars are fish that were recaptured from Peace Creek down to the dam. So they're potentially, at the scale that this data gives me right now, they're using the entire reservoir, all 107 miles. Now, not all of them will move that entire distance, but there's definitely a good number that are, and they are dispersing after the sport.
Additional questions from the commission? Seeing none. All right, with that, we'll have Director Kirschman come back up. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to say thank you to the petitioner for bringing forward the petition today and the discussion here. I think that we're all recognizing and understanding again the complexity of what comes with the management of a resource that's highly sought after by many, many folks, right? And many in this room, I know that firsthand. So great conversation and discussion. We asked Chris to provide some of the background to you, some information we have from the past and what we do know now as basically that foundation of bringing forward our overall recommendation. I also want to say thank you to Amy for giving the Lake Francis case overview like we did for Lake Oahe and Lake Sharp. I think it's just a great way to present information. You have a good understanding of what's happening in those individual reservoirs. One of the primary species that our anglers are after, and that is the walleye. But so as shared by Chris, I think he shared some good information about, and on average when we look over time, there is a lower percentage of, I'll say, participation or angling or that pressure early in the year, that January, February, March, versus when we do get into April, May, June, and July, that peak fishing period. Again, that does vary by year. We've seen 80-degree temperature days here in Pierre in the middle of February, and there were certainly people out enjoying the opportunities that existed then, but that is not the norm for having a whole weekend of 80 degrees either. So we do see some of those fluctuations, and obviously people are going to take advantage of that. Different daily limits that were brought forward here, we talked about this a lot internally from many aspects of it, but maybe one of the most important things that we talked about, that we talk with you frequently about, is complexity for our users and complexity of regulations. So this particular one, if we went from 4 to 2 on that segment of the river, or the reservoir, not to the south of there. But it's, as the petition asks for, it's only for boat fishing. So while you're in a boat, it would be 4 to 2, but while you'd be ice fishing, if you had the opportunity, if conditions existed, or you were fishing from shore, it would not be 2, it would be a limit of 4. So you have that diversity or complexity of regulations for different types of fishing activity for the exact same species. And I would share with you, oftentimes when we talk about those types of things, typically our staff, whether they're biologists, managers, or law enforcement, are going to say if we need to make a change or an adjustment to a daily limit, it makes sense to do it all, not just one segment of it. So it creates that complexity there. I think the information that Amy shared with you and the overall picture of Lake Francis case, things look very well for walleye in the year classes we have coming up. So from a current structure of harvest and opportunity, certainly we look at it to be very, very much appropriate as what our current structure provides to our anglers throughout the year. And then we are excited, as Chris talked about, initiating that tagging study that will provide additional information. It may not answer all the questions, and we can certainly go back and talk about other means and methods of collecting more data and information as well. So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, again, great information, great discussion. We do come before you, and our overall recommendation would be to deny the petition as it's written here today. Not because it doesn't bring good conversation and merit, but we believe from some of those complexities in our current structure seems to be providing opportunity to harvest walleye, but what our data does show us is that our harvest structure that we have in place right now in the season structure is not having a negative impact on our walleye population in Lake Francis case. I would recommend we keep it under that current structure. Now, that doesn't mean we can't come back to you in a couple of years after we collect more information and we have that available to us to have more discussions. But where we would stand today, our recommendation would be to deny it and continue to move forward with our current season structure for Lake Francis case.
Very good, thank you, Director Kirschman. I'm gonna offer Wes the opportunity to come back if you would like to have a rebuttal, and then we'll open it up for comments to the department.
So I don't have a whole lot to rebuttal with. I did speak with John on the phone when we were going over the petition, and I thought he and I were in agreement that it was gonna be boat, ice, and shore, not just boat fishing. When we spoke on the phone, he wanted to make sure that was clear, and I thought we clarified that. So the 2 fish limit would be across the board, not just for boat fishermen, but for that 3-month period. The data is pretty outdated. I did some numbers on my own this year and counted boats, and in a 31-day period, there was an estimated 2,000 boats with 3 anglers per boat, which is 24,000 fish in a 30-day period out of our stretch of water. The fish do migrate. Me and Chris talked about that. I don't disagree with it, but if we kept half of them fish there, that 40% that was left is gonna be a higher number in them later months for more people to enjoy. Again, I don't wanna change the number of fish being caught. I would like to see more people able to catch more fish when they go out to keep.
Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Bartley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Bartling. Wes, you mentioned about the fishing guides and the outfitters and whatnot. Approximately how many are in the area in those months, you know, where it's heavily fished?
You know, anywhere from 15 to 40 boats a day. I mean, there's guides from Platte, there's guides from Chamberlain, there's guides from up north coming. I mean, there's a pile of guys fishing, and it's great. I mean, I love the business in town. But when they leave, you know, when it comes to mid-May and they're going somewhere else to fish, that tells me that the fish aren't there to be harvested for their clients. Or why would they be leaving?
Questions from the commission, comments? Very good, seeing none, thank you for that.
Thank you.
And with that, commissioners, do we have any additional questions for the department or Chris from his presentation? Tom, I would just ask one if I may, and I appreciate the information about the behavior of the fish and what we know from that data. What kind of, maybe it's data or input have we got from the, we talk about the guides and the number of anglers that are coming in and removing fish. Has there been much look at the impact that is having?
Madam Chair, in terms of actually evaluating that quote-unquote impact from guides or that type of commercial activity, I would say no, we do not have data readily available to say that there is or is not an impact in that local area like that. We have to remember that, you know, as a guide is out there with 1 or 2 or 3 people, whatever the number is, right? They're all licensed anglers out there fishing, no different than potentially a family of 1 or 2 or 3 people in a boat out fishing as well. They're doing the same activity. Now, I'm here to say those folks probably are more proficient because they're certainly, when I go out with my kids, I know they catch more fish than we do, but that's because it's our own fault, right? We're not as good as they are, don't know where to go at times under the current conditions and stuff. So they do that for a living for reasons, right? They're very good at their trade. But do we have data that suggests or shows that it's having an impact on numbers that are available or impacting the population? No, we do not.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And as a commissioner, when we have to make decisions, it is nice to have the data and the information because that's what we have to weigh our decisions on. So thank you for offering your comments on that. With that, commission, we do need to move forward on a motion for this petition.
Commissioner Nyberg, I will make a motion to deny the petition.
We do have a motion to deny. We do need a second.
Commissioner Kirkby, I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Kirkby. Comments on that denial motion? Commissioner Nyberg.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you stated it, Madam Secretary, Chairman. The data is very, very interesting and the discussion was wonderful. I personally think that I want to see with the data that Chris is collecting in the next 2 years, I think that's going to tell us a lot. So that's my reason why I'm going to vote to deny the petition.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. Additional comments on the motion to deny from the Commission?
I second it because I really dislike complicated regulations.
Commissioner Kirkby, thank you for that. Additional comments from the Commission? I will just add before we vote on this, again, for myself and my vote, it's important to look at the data and the information that's provided, so I do appreciate it. I also think this helps provide an elevated platform to continue this conversation on this topic. So thank you for bringing it forward. I think it also elevates the need for updated data, so thank you for pointing that out, Secretary. And so as I deliver my vote, those will be my reasons why, but I do look forward to continued conversations on this. With that, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
We have one opposed. We do have a quorum that has voted in favor. The motion to deny is approved. Thank you for coming. All right, and with that, we are going to move on to, we're going to jump back to item 5. Director Van Meter is with us. We'll do some staff introductions, and after that, we will take a short break.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Secretary Roebling. Got 2 staff today that I want to introduce. Neither one of them, I believe, will be joining us. One is traveling back from the same meeting I was just at. So had a great opportunity this week to meet our newest park manager, Braden Barthel, up for West Whitlock's recreation area. Braden started his job here on March 24th, so pretty new to the job. But he's no stranger to the division. He's been a park manager intern at Lake Poncet, Oakwood, Roy Lake, and Custer. So he's been around. You know, we've talked about this internship program in the past and what a great training ground this is for our future park managers. So Braden's just a testimony of that. He also worked as a campground supervisor at Lake Vermilion. Excited to have Braden on board with his knowledge and experience to bring that up to West Whitlocks and the surrounding areas up there. The second employee is Jeff Palmerville. Jeff is our new building maintenance specialist at Lewis and Clark Recreation Area. He started on March 9th. And Jeff, I can assure you, has been busy every day since he started. He's pouring concrete, he's siding buildings. He comes with a wealth of construction experience. The last 6 years, he's also worked as an electrician and picking up his license. So really excited to have Jeff on the team. In addition to working at Lewis and Clark Recreation Area, Jeff is also going to be assisting with development projects in the southeast park regions, much like one of our staff persons up in the northeast that is currently helping us build a brand new office building. We're doing that ourselves with our own crew, and you'll get a chance to see that later on this summer. It's absolutely beautiful. Jeff's going to be a great addition to the team, not only at Lewis and Clark, but the whole southeast. So we're excited to have both these folks on. So thank you for the opportunity to introduce them.
Very good, and welcome to both Braden and Jeff. All right, with that, we are going to take a 10-minute break right now. It is 2:49 Central Time. We will be back at 3 p.m. Central Time, so we'll be at ease for around 10 minutes. Back, everyone. This is our April 2026 Game Fish and Parks Commission meeting. We are going to backtrack a little bit. We're going to go back to item number 4, and I apologize. There was a misunderstanding on my part on the direction of this, and so I would like to ask Nick Michaels to come back up, re-explain again what it is the department is looking for, and then if you could, help us better understand the request and who that request is coming from.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Nick Michaels, General Counsel for the department. Yes, this license list request is from an individual, not an entity, not an organization. It's an individual by the name of Thomas Druce. He is asking for a list of current active fishing and hunting licenses in the state with their addresses. And on the form that the department provides for those who are making these requests, they have to state their purpose in asking for this specific list request. Mr. Druce states, quote, for a national sportsman's group to advocate and promote pro-hunting and sportsman activities. This is not for commercial use to sell any products or merchandise, end quote. In administrative rule, the only limitation that this commission has put on withholding license list requests is when it is directed toward a person under the age of 18 and is intended to promote, advertise, or provide information related to gambling, alcoholic beverages, offensive or pornographic matters or material. Being that the stated reason does not fall under any of those prohibited categories, the department has no objection to its being released and would not object if the commission moved to approve of releasing these names, subject to the fee that is set out in 41060206.
Thank you for doing that. Commissioner Cole.
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider item number 4.
We have a motion to reconsider. We do need a second. Seconded by Commissioner Bartling. Any questions or comments on that motion to reconsider? Commissioner Teal.
Thanks, Nick. My only question is, does it state who it's for? I know it says a national agency, but does it say, was there any comments made by the person that requested the list?
Through the chair, no, Commissioner Teal, it just states his own name. He doesn't state whether he's representing any sort of organization or entity.
Thank you.
Very good. So we will vote on the motion to reconsider, and then after that, we'll need a motion to move forward with the final vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Very good.
Now I'll make a motion to adopt number 4 at the lowest fee. Is that correct, or the stated fee? What's the right terminology there?
The standard fee, through the chair, Commissioner Cole, the standard fee in a case like this is $100 for each 1,000 names provided. And there has been no request to make any sort of accommodation or otherwise.
Nick, Commissioner Nyberg would like for you to repeat that.
Certainly. Commissioner, the regular fee, according to Administrative Rule 41060206, the regular fee in a license list request such as this is $100 for each 1,000 names or portion thereof contained in each list of subscription or license holders that is sold.
Commissioner Nyberg.
So Nick, what's the total amount?
That,
Do you have that?
through the chair, I don't have the exact numbers. My understanding roughly is that there are probably about 125 some odd thousand active licenses. When the requester is met with that number, he might amend how many exactly it is that he wants or reduce that, I don't know. But that is the regular fee as laid out in rule.
Being the new kid on the block, how often is this request asked for? Number one, first question. Second question, Nick, how are we protected? How do we know they're not passing those names on to another entity?
Through the chair. Great questions, Commissioner. I'm sorry, could you state your first one again?
How often?
How often, yes. I can tell you that I believe it was back in January was the first time I had presented a license list request to this commission in my 2 years as general counsel. We've had several others that come through the state portal. However, when we follow through with those requesters and let them know that there is a fee and that it has to come through the commission, we've not received any follow-up from those individuals. So, in a roundabout way, what I'm saying is I've only seen, this is only my second one in my 2 years here. How we're protected, I believe that fee is meant to be a way of protecting us. It's a deterrent for those who would maybe have nefarious reasons for requesting this list. That being said, there are also additional statutory reasons that the department could use to deny a request that are outside of what the criteria that the commission holds.
Very good. So we do have a motion to approve, adopt the request for the list. We do not have a second yet.
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Teal. So we have a motion to move forward and adopt. Any final comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
So we will do a voice vote. And so Gail, I'll have you take roll call for that.
Commissioner Julie Bartling? Aye. Commissioner Bruce Cole?
Aye.
Commissioner Dean Kirkby?
Aye.
Commissioner Kevin Nyberg?
No.
Commissioner Chuck Spring?
No.
Commissioner Travis Teal?
Aye.
Commissioner Bob Whitmire?
Is he not voting?
He's not getting off mute.
He's muted.
Oh, he is muted. Okay, so our final count?
And, I'm sorry, Commissioner Stephanie Ressler?
Aye.
So we will have 5 yeas, 2 nays.
Very good. That is a quorum to move forward. Very good. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Nick, for coming back up. I appreciate the flexibility. And with that, we are going to move on to finalizations. Number 8, antelope and turkey. And I believe Mr. Norton will be joining us virtually.
Afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Secretary Roebling. I'm Andrew Norton, Wildlife Program Administrator, and could I get a thumbs up or affirmative that the slide is working?
The slide is working and we can hear you good. Go ahead.
Perfect. All right, so I have the next 10 agenda items, I believe, slightly reduced from last month with finalizations here, and I will do my best to go through these as quickly as possible. I've shared all of these items with the commission last month, went through the proposals, and the commission moved forward with the proposals. The administrative action items were just information items which would take action this month if the commission supports them. And I'll go through each one by one, and each, if the commission agrees, would require action to approve or adopt the proposals as finalizations. The first agenda item, number 8A, is application for license for antelope and turkey. As I mentioned, these were all presented last month and would be up for finalization today. No changes from the proposal that was approved by the commission last month, and go over those specific changes would be number 1 and 2 at the top of the sheet in front of you here. The first would be to allow special antelope applicants to choose another unit. The reason for this is previously special antelope draw was run earlier. In administrative rule, special antelope is actually a unit within the prairie antelope season. So to coincide with that being a unit, we will be moving the draw back to occur and coincide with the prairie antelope draw, which is coming up in June. That standardizes when all of these draws occur. In addition, we move up the non-resident archery draw to also occur June 16th. So a little bit of a delay in those two, but all antelope applicants then would have draws open at the same time. And most importantly, this change is because aerial antelope surveys occur in May. We can use the data collected from those surveys to inform any potential changes to these seasons. And I'll have a great example here coming up with deer, as we were unable to do that last year, but changing some of the draw structures allows us to do that, hopefully moving forward. So that was the first change, and then the second change was more a rule cleanup than anything. That was, we never previously specifically described what draw 2 was for turkey or antelope, so we split that out and described antelope separately from turkey in 2 separate paragraphs. Specifically described how draw 2 would be conducted, and then for antelope, we currently don't even have a second draw because there's no licenses left over, and definitely don't get to a third draw. So the proposal here was to remove the 4th draw, so there'd be the first 2 draws for antelope, and then the third would be a leftover draw. Right now we anticipate only running 1 draw, and all those licenses would sell out in the first draw. There's 2 figures of those that explain the changes in more detail. Draft administrative rule has the specific rule changes, but as I mentioned, no recommended changes from the department here. We received no public comment, and as you heard today, there was no comment during the hearing. And with that, I can take any questions. The department would recommend that the commission moves forward with approving this finalization.
Very good, thank you, Andrew. Any questions from the commission? Seeing none, we do need a motion to move forward with this particular proposal for finalization. Move forward by Commissioner Teal.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bartling. Comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So that one does move forward and is adopted. Very good, Andrew. If you just want to keep going, I know we have you listed on several of these as we move forward.
Thank you. Great. So agenda item 9A, there are going to be 2 agenda items related to deer here. The first of which is just a rule change. I'll go through those specific changes in the proposal to administrative rule. Those won't result in any major functional changes. The next one will be license type specification and license numbers. That's administrative action. And that one will involve changes to license types and numbers. So that one will be maybe more of a substantive change, if you will. The rule change, agenda item 9A here, no changes from the proposal. Did not receive any public comment on this. The specific changes are to remove the specification of tag type and rule. We've done that for many seasons, and I've explained this many times. I think going back to almost 6 years ago, we started this process so the commission could more easily take administrative action to specify license types. And then the second change from rule was an oversight last year when the commission adopted the deer action plan. The desire was to align the landowner on land free antlerless whitetail license unit with the archery antlerless whitetail unit and the muzzleloader antlerless whitetail unit. And so that would be any unit, Black Hills, West River, or East River deer that offers at least one antlerless specific license. So type 03 license or type 13 license would be an antlerless specific tag. A type 18 would include an antlerless specific tag. If a unit offers those, then that unit would also be open to an unlimited archery whitetail antlerless, unlimited muzzleloader whitetail antlerless, and then the specific rule change would be landowners on their own land who would have access to 2 free antlerless licenses. As I mentioned, no recommended changes from the proposal and no comments were received, and I can take any questions, but the department would have a recommendation that if the commission agrees to move forward and approve this rule change as is.
Very good, thank you, Andrew. Any questions? And this is for 9A, application for licenses. We do need a motion to move forward with 9A.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Spring.
a question on this, are we approving all of the West River in this deal here, West River deer
Andrew,
applications?
Andrew, were you able to hear Commissioner Spring?
Yes, Madam Chair, through the chair,
Yes.
this was just the application for license rule change, so no, this rule change here would not specific to the West River deer season. However, as I mentioned, the next administrative action item, that involves several different license type specifications for some seasons, and then it also includes the East River deer license table recommendation that was shared last month. So I can defer to someone else, but my recommendation would be we could have that discussion with that administrative action item coming up next.
We do have Director Kirschman here. Director, did you want to add on to that?
Madam Chair, thank you. Tom Kirschman, Director of Wildlife Division. So Commissioner Spring, I believe what you're referring to is a potential conversation or discussion in respect to license allocations for the West River deer season. The action sheet in front of you is just what Andrew described from a process standpoint and the drawing piece. So that does not affect the exact numbers of West River deer. So I would recommend to move forward, take your action on this finalization, which is actually the rule change, And then the next administrative action sheet would then lead into, I believe, your question in respect to potential discussion of licenses for a couple of units in particular.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead.
Very good.
Very good. Any other questions? With that, we do need a motion on item 9A. Move to approve by Commissioner Teal. Seconded by Commissioner Cole. Comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So that one does move forward and is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Moving on to agenda item 9B, and I'll try to start this one by addressing maybe where I believe the discussion will go in the timeline for this. So these license types that you see in front of you here were recommended last month, and then the next page would be license numbers only for East River deer. Those were recommended last month, and they would be up for administrative action this month. So if the commission took action today, that would change these license types that are listed in the table and would change the license numbers only for East River deer. However, we do have another month that we have to change licenses, so if there would be any additional discussion desired with, say, West River deer unit-specific license numbers, we could make that recommendation for license numbers today, and we still have, at the May meeting, time to take administrative action on those license number changes, and that would afford the public 30 days to comment on any potential changes to license numbers that they haven't seen already based on last month's recommendation. Certainly other ways to do it, but that is my understanding. I can go through this administrative action sheet and would again defer to Director Kirschman if it is interpreted differently. So quickly going through this sheet, as I mentioned, last year we were unable to change the license types because we had already run the non-resident archery draw before we changed deer season rules and license numbers. So there was the desire last year to change archery and muzzleloader, any deer licenses to buck-only licenses. However, we did not do that. So this year we're moving forward, and that would be the recommendation. And you can see in this table here, River Archery and West River Archery, those license types would be switched to any buck deer. And then maybe 7 or 8 lines down would be the statewide muzzleloader that would switch to any buck deer. This was an attempt at statewide to reduce antlerless harvest for both mule deer and whitetails in units. We did not want antlerless harvest. We can achieve that with the firearm season as well as that antlerless specific archery or muzzleloader unit. So that was the first recommended change here with administrative action. And all the other license types, there's no change to those, but those are listed in the table for reference. And then moving on to the next page is specifically those East River deer license numbers. So the first table here shows the license numbers split out by license type. The resident only for East River, so it includes a type 01, for example, as an any deer license by unit. And the next page is probably easier to follow along with the specific changes were from last year. This, as a reminder from last month, is a specific response to hemorrhagic disease outbreak we had late last summer, early fall, and we're really only able to appreciate the magnitude of that loss. We knew deer numbers were low in southeastern South Dakota, but it seemed even more apparent after hunters took the field last fall. So basically taking some additional steps, there's very few antlerless hunting opportunity in any of the units that are proposed to be changed here, these 12 southeastern South Dakota units. And they're mostly buck only. There's a few that are any deer, Minnehaha would be an example of that. But the take home here is among those 12 units in southeastern South Dakota, there'd be a 4% reduction in essentially buck hunting opportunity, and that results in 700 fewer licenses for East River deer next year. You can see the unit-specific changes, those range from a reduction of 20% to about 50% by various units listed in this table. Again, no changes from what was shared, no comments on this from the public or at the hearing, and you can take any questions on these license types, the license numbers for East River, or any subsequent discussion there may be for other license number recommendations. And there would be recommendation to take administrative action today to finalize its East River license numbers and those license types for some of those statewide seasons.
Very good, thank you, Andrew. Any questions and or comments? Commissioner Cole.
Just a question, to whoever wants to answer, one of you two guys. If you take a look at the LED-ER1, if we approve this that way, I understand what we're doing there, any of those two types of licenses would be available. What happens if we add buck only to that? Whether it's used or not is irrelevant, is that correct? And give me some explanation there, because I'm specifically talking about the East River season. I think you probably know where I'm going with this, but if we're doing buck only in these specific 8 to 10 counties that are having issues, you know, it may be a prudent thing to look at that for the landowners also. So just your thoughts from a staff perspective, I guess.
Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
So Commissioner Call, the first thing that would come to my mind in respect to adding another license type to landowner-owned land licenses would require a rule change.
Okay.
We have in rule right now those two license types which were listed in state statute at one time and then came over to administrative rule. But if we were going to add, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, we have specific language in rule that talks about the license types for landowners. I think we would have to make some type of a rule change to go with that, if you wanted to add a license type to landowner-owned land.
Tom, could I interrupt and just correct that really quickly?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Sorry, through the chair. So the previous action that the commission just took was that exact rule.
Okay.
And it took the tag type specification out of rule. So it changed any deer and any antlerless deer license and buck antelope and any deer, all of those were changed to just a single tag license type or a two tag license type. And so that does, from my understanding, afford us the ability in this table here via administrative action specify what those license types would be. And right now, that's no change from what historically was. The landowner could choose either the any deer license or they could choose the two tag any deer plus any antlerless deer.
All right, so just a point of clarification and to further that, if we added a buck only to that, let me back up. If we approve this, next meeting, we could still add a buck only to like that particular one if we wanted to, as a commission, is that correct?
Madam Chair, I would say yes, based on what Andrew is describing, what we have done then, because we're just saying it's either a single tag or a double tag, like we do in the East River deer season, West River deer season in administrative rule, and then we come back with the specific license type, right? Whether it's mule deer or, whitetail only or any deer, so on and so forth. I would say, yeah, you would still have the ability then to make an adjustment to that based on what that rule is saying. Again, assuming we still get all through that entire process with the rule promulgation process as well.
Very good. Any other comments, Commissioner? Other comments from the Commission? Secretary Robley.
Yeah, I appreciate the discussion. I think it would be wise for us, though, to let the biologists go back and look at some of the impacts of those license types before we make any changes and recommendations here today. We do have information and data on that in regards to harvest, records and success rates on landowner-owned land specific to those units of concern there, Commissioner Call. And we could provide that at the May meeting and still make adjustments to administrative action, which would not require administrative rule at that time. So if there are desires to go and change landowner-owned land, again, we can do that at that May meeting.
Commissioner?
Yeah, I just want to give a follow-up to that. Yeah, and where I'm coming from with this, and I think Andrew mentioned that we got no comments on this at all, which I think means that we're probably doing the right thing. But in our specific area, the southeast part, it's those 8-10 counties that have been hit really hard. I think hunters are like, they're they're singing the blues right now. You know, that they see what the problem is, and I think they think we're doing the right thing, and hopefully we are, but it's been an interesting decade with Deer East River in that particular area, so I'm just trying to find out everything we can. I'm not proposing anything today, I just want to know what our options are going forward. So I appreciate the information.
And Madam Chair, as you're just alluding to, Commissioner Call, again, when you look at the sheet here for the East River, you're gonna see the units that have additional changes are just those that you're referencing, where we have seen those decline in deer numbers, and again, trying to bolster the herd down there.
Secretary Robley.
Madam Chair, one thing I'd ask the division, Tom, to do is look at those 8 units, or those 13 units, whatever that might be, in the southeast, and get some more historical information for these commissioners to review and analyze, so that we can go back to the public and talk in greater detail as to where we were 10 years ago and where we are today. There has been substantial reductions in antlerless harvest in those 10 years in particular, in the last 3 in particular, to respond to those EHD outbreaks. It would be good to have that summarized information available for the commissioners to review. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Secretary. And with that, we do need a motion and a second to move forward on item 9B.
Nyberg's motion to approve.
Oh, I'm going to put that on hold. We do have a motion to approve by Nyberg. Director Kirschner.
Madam Chair, my apologies for interrupting you. I put a pause in there because that would be for this. If we want to, again, we can always make some potential changes next meeting because it is administrative action, okay? The other thing I just want to bring up, I know that there was some discussion and consideration of a few West River units as well. Commissioner Spring alluded to that earlier and posed the question. Again, what I would offer up is if there are a couple of those units in the West River deer season of interest, which has been expressed, I would say please maybe share that again on the mic of just the units that are of question or concern. We could then, as staff, go back and adjust and bring a West River unit sheet for you again tomorrow and just share it with you, and then take your final action, your actual action on it at the May meeting. Because it would still give us time to go in to adjust the licensing system when people put in their applications as the draw takes place, or applications open on towards the end of May. So we have that final discussion, look at a few of those units if that is of desire and interest. At your May meeting, you can take your action, say yes, thank you for making adjustments, these adjustments included, and then we could incorporate into the application, if I may, and the draw towards the end, when applications open at the end of May.
So Tom, your recommendation, if the commissioners want to get some additional details, is to potentially table this until tomorrow.
Yes, and then you could just take the action you could take is, appreciate that, now we're gonna move this forward and we'll take our final action on the administrative action piece of it at the May commission meeting.
Very good. Thoughts on that recommendation from the commission?
Commissioner Cole, I'm totally in favor of that. I think the more information we get, the better. I think the Secretary mentioned that, Tom mentioned it. I think that's just doing our due diligence.
Commissioners, if we moved this to tomorrow, any major heartburn?
No, so I rescind my motion.
Very good. Commissioner Teal.
I think that'd be good. I know, as you mentioned with West River and what Chuck had also mentioned, I've heard from numerous individuals in like the Perkins, Butte, and Meade County areas. And I think it might be good to just revisit a few of those before we move it forward next month, so. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, Commissioner Teal, thank you for those comments. We actually did start some conversation this morning already, just based on some of the dialogue that we have had between commission and staff. And we have a few thoughts, ideas, so we can finalize pulling that together. We can have a sheet in here for you that would be West River deer, so that you can see what it is and what it would change to or potentially change to as a recommendation from us. And then you would have that, we can have that as a brief discussion and then move that forward for a final action at May if that fits what you're looking for.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Very good. So with that, we will table item 9B in terms of moving forward with a vote until tomorrow. Thank you for your flexibility and recommendation in moving in that direction. So Andrew, with that, that leads us to item number 10, elk hunting seasons.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and also thank you for bearing with me and Director Kirschman as we try to navigate that process with deer. We will have something updated for tomorrow. Agenda item 10A is the application for licenses for elk. The next 3 agenda items will be for rule changes that were proposed for the elk season, and then following that will be license numbers for Black Hills elk, Custer State Park elk, and prairie elk. And the first 3 are just administrative rule changes. First of which is the application for license. No changes from the proposal, no public comments in regards to this. We initiated landowner-owned land elk licenses from a statutory change just over 2 years ago. So this season has been in existence the last 2 seasons, and we've been adding units to this. As mentioned earlier in discussion with some of the landowners with the Unit 4 discussion and the petition, staff have met with landowners in these new units, and the desire would be to expand landowner-owned land, antlerless elk hunting opportunity for residents only, all prairie units. So that would add prairie units 15A, 49A, and then the upcoming proposed unit for the East River area. So all of the prairie would be open. This is antlerless hunting only on that landowner's land, and it's for residents only. A quick update on what the magnitude of that harvest is. It's less than the total antlerless harvest for the regular prairie season. So this, I believe, 36 animals in 2024 and 69 animals in 2025. For recommended changes from the proposal, and with that can take any questions, but would have a recommendation from the department to move forward and approve this as is.
Very good. Any questions from the commission? Seeing none. Andrew, just a quick question. On these 3 rule changes, do we need to take those separately, or can we take them in one vote?
Yes, Madam Chair, separately, because the next rule change actually does have a recommendation from the proposal.
Very good. All right. With that, we are on item 10A. We do need a motion to move forward. Moved by Commissioner Bartling. Seconded by Commissioner Teal. Any comments on that motion? Seeing none, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So it is adopted and moves forward. We can move on.
All right, agenda item 10B, this is the special Custer State Park antlerless elk hunting season, chapter 310647. This season last occurred in 2018, so it's been closed for quite some time. Unit boundaries were a subset of Custer State Park. The proposal was to open this season back up for the entire Custer State Park, and that season would run similar dates to the adjacent Unit 4 before the petition that was approved today. And those dates would have been second half of October and the first 2 weeks in December. So this rule change would repeal some of the old structure of the smaller unit, and it would be all of Custer State Park. It would specify the season dates. The recommended change from the proposal was to create a split season in Custer State Park. The reason being is that with the aerial survey last year, the population was over objective, so that's why this season would be implemented, and the number of licenses that would be needed to start reducing this population would be 50. I'll share that as administrative action in a few more agenda items. And with that anticipation of 50 licenses, the desire would be to split those hunters up so we don't have all 50 hunters entering Custer State Park October 15th. Could have 25, for example, the second half of October, and then another 25 would start at the beginning of December. So that would be the one specific change, instead of just one unit with that combined season, to have a split season of 2 weeks in October, and then another season 2 weeks in December. There was one public comment, I believe, that was received in relation to this, was to use regular Custer State Park preference points be applied to this season. That would be challenging because there's already, I I believe, a few hundred individuals that hold preference for this season already from when it was opened back in 2018. So the desire would be to keep this as a separate season with preference points treated separately. With that, can take any questions, but there'd be just that one change recommended from the proposal. I believe that would take action to amend the proposal, and then the recommendation would be to approve if the commission agrees the amended proposal and finalize that rule change.
Very good, thank you, Andrew. Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Teal.
Thanks, Andrew. Not really a question, just more of a comment. I think it's a good move. I know we visited about this last month, but splitting those hunters up, because we did hear a little bit of concern last year, actually during the bull season, and I know that a few of us were concerned about adding all those tags at once, so I think this is the right move to spread them out and keep the quality of hunt up as well, so thank you.
Additional comments from the commission? Seeing none, we do need to amend the proposal, so we'll need a motion to accept the changes from the proposal, and we'll need to approve that amendment.
Move to amend.
Moved to amend by Commissioner Bartling, seconded by Commissioner Spring. Comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of amending the proposal signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So now we have the amended proposal before us, which now we can move forward with. Any comments or questions? If we have none, we do need a motion and a second. Move to approve by Commissioner Teal. Seconded by Commissioner Call. Comments and or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? It is approved.
All right, thank you. Agenda item 10C is the last rule change to the elk season before getting into the administrative action license numbers. No changes from the proposal for the prairie elk hunting season. Two changes that were proposed are to standardize season dates across the entire prairie. A reminder, Andy Lynn Bloom presented elk information last month, and prairie, with the exception of Harding County, managed very differently than the Black Hills. This is managed more towards providing landowners opportunity to manage elk on their property, because on the prairie, there's a lot more potential for elk to come into conflict with agricultural depredation. So, providing expanded opportunity September 1 to December 31st, this would be for all counties and units on the prairie within the prairie elk hunting season, which now would include the entire state outside the Black Hills with the addition of the East River area. Specific date changes, which would add additional dates, would be in Unit 11B, that's Bennett and Jackson County. 35A, 35B is Harding County, 49A Meade County, and then the new unit, that's the next change in this prairie season, is East River area. So the specific change to East River area would be entire area east of the Missouri River, excluding Crow Creek Reservation. And there would be an allowance of an unlimited number of any elk licenses for the East River area. Different than the other prairie units, East River, there's no desire to have any established elk populations, but elk do occasionally wander out onto the prairie there east of the Missouri River, and this would provide hunters an opportunity to obtain that license. In addition, landowners would have an opportunity to purchase those landowner-owned land licenses. And again, no changes from the proposal, no specific comments, I don't believe, related to the prairie elk hunting season, and can take any questions on that. The recommendation would be to move forward as is with the proposal and analyze you see in front of you today.
Any questions? Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Teal?
I apologize if I missed it, Andrew, but in that new East River unit, is that tag, that license fee going to be the same as the west, or like the prairie units on the West River?
The chair?
Yes, please.
Yes, that license fee would be the same for regular license for the East River area, that would be the any elk license.
Okay,
Off the top of my head, I don't exactly have it, it was.
that's okay, thank
Yeah.
you. That's perfect.
Additional questions from the commission? Seeing none, we do need to move forward with a motion and a second on item 10C. Move to approve by Commissioner Bartley. Seconded by Commissioner Nyberg. Comments, questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So it is adopted.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The last two items in regards to elk are hunting season license. The first one is going to just be the recommendation for the Black Hills and Custer State Park. And these were shared as a recommendation last month as an informational item, and this month would be up for adoption as administrative action. So where the tables you see in front of you right now are just for the Black Hills season, and then next we can move into Custer State Park. In general, what has been the change, in fact, we heard it at the public hearing today, is a reduction in antlerless licenses in the Black Hills units. The reason for that is last year after the aerial survey, we were approaching that upper limit of the population objective of 8,000 as Andy presented. We accomplished our mission of not going over that 8,000 by increasing the antlerless licenses. We believe we stabilized the population and potentially reduced it a little bit to around, I believe, 7,800 elk. Now the recommendation would be to back off on those antlerless licenses so that population can stay stable through the next 2 years, and then at that time could determine where we are at relative to the population objective. For full licenses, the any elk licenses, the recommendation would be to increase those in the Black Hills, the reason being that there's been, if you will, opportunity left on the table with structure objectives being exceeded every year and success objectives being exceeded every year. So a highly sought after license, wait of anywhere from 15 to over 40 years in some units, and this additional opportunity would be welcome for a lot of hunters that are eagerly waiting to draw that elk tag. So the unit specific changes here are in front of you. There were a few slight changes from the recommended number last month, specifically unit H1A, that now is listed at 80, before it was 100. H2A is at 400, that previously was 425. H3A is 120, that went up from 100. And the rest, I believe, did not change from what was shared last month, and then there's subsequent changes in the archery because they're a percentage, 25% right now of the firearm. With that, you can see an increase in a decrease in H2A down to 130 from 160. Then in H3A, that was an increase from 30 up to 40 based on what was shared last. These all, most of the units increased from last year, as you can see from the left column to the right column. And the next page moves into the Custer State Park licenses. Similar story there. In fact, Custer State Park is a much older age structure. We often see 100% success on those licenses. Commissioner Teal mentioned the increase in elk hunters. Not quite 50 for the any elk hunting, so would be an increase from 10 to 15 for the archery any elk licenses, and an increase from 25 to 35 for the firearm any elk licenses, and this is one of the most sought after licenses with, on average, I believe, well over a 40-year wait for one of these seasons. New season, the CSP Special Antlerless Elk season, as you can see there, those units are split with 25 licenses in each of those seasons. And those are the licenses numbers for Black Hills and Custer State Park, and Prairie will be the next item, so we could either take questions on this, Madam Chair, or we can move right into Prairie if you want to take action on both of them at the same time.
Any questions from the commission on this particular item? Item 10D is in dog. Seeing none, let's go ahead and move right into the Prairie, and we'll take action on both at the same time.
Okay, great. So the Prairie, a little bit easier narrative here, just an increase in licenses. We're seeing reasonable success. Staff have been doing a great job gaining access to private land, and that's usually what drives success on the Prairie in gaining hunting access in those areas where the elk are. Increase from 136 any elk licenses to 160, and an increase from 280 antlerless elk licenses to 320, and hopefully this provides more opportunity. In addition to the landowner-owned land opportunity, we'd hope that landowners are open to inviting some of these successful license holders onto their properties to help with some of the elk and provide a great recreation opportunity. And again, no changes on this one from the proposal, and that would be all the elk license recommendations that would be up for finalization here today.
Very good. Any questions from the commission in terms of the prairie elk license? Seeing none, at this stage, we are going to need a motion and a second, and we are going to move forward on both items 10D and E in one vote. Move to approve both by Commissioner Bartling. Seconded by Commissioner Cole. Any questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So it does move forward. Thank you, Andrew. And then with that, I know you're also tagged for item 11, so if you'd like to jump right into item 11, please do.
Okay, so item 11A, the next two items are the only two rule changes for the waterfowl season that pertain to Canada goose hunting opportunities. The first one, Chapter 410616, August Management Take. As Rocco Morano presented last month, we're capped at how much opportunity we can provide as far as days and unit boundaries and bag limits from the federal U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Federal Register they put out each year. Within that, we can reduce license spatially in times, bag limits, and that was a direct result of the Canada Goose Action Plan that was adopted last month. And there was a decision support table in there that says how considerations are made for changing the opportunity with Canada goose hunting. So both of these proposals were reducing Canada goose harvest in South Dakota. The first one being August Management Take to remove 5 counties. These 5 counties would be Brown, Edmonds, Falk, McPherson, and Spink. And that would, if you scroll down to the figure on the next page, you can see exactly where those were removed. In the northeastern part of the state there's a gray shaded area. Just to the west of those 5 counties were removed. And then the other change in administrative rule would be reducing that daily bag limit from 15 down to 8. This coincides with exactly what the recommendation would be based on the population surveys in the Canada Goose Action Plan. So no comments on this and no changes that the department would recommend. And either questions on this or jump right into the early fall Canada Goose and move forward with both of those.
Questions from the commission? Seeing no questions, I think we're good to move forward with item 11B.
Perfect. So 11B, even simpler, no changes from the proposal, no boundary changes, just a simple reduction in that bag limit from 15 to 8, and no comments were received on this. And that's all I have with waterfowl, and would ask the commission to forward to approve both of the proposals as finalizations if they agree.
Very good, thank you, Andrew. Any questions or comments from the commission? We do need a motion to move forward to vote on both items in one vote. Moved by Commissioner Cole. Seconded by Commissioner Nyberg. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? It is adopted and we'll move forward. And with that, it looks like you are done for today, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And with that, we'll move to item number 12, bighorn sheep hunting season. Mr. Cantu will be joining us. No, he will not. Maybe. And if we need to, I would like to, I know we've got some folks that have traveled here from across the state. We could certainly move to them while we look for Mr. Canta. I was going to have item 17 or 18, which Mr. Blanchett is with us, and we also have our team from Custer here as well. Director Kirschner?
Andrew was going to cover for John.
Okay.
Chair, I do believe John Canta was tied up today with a meeting. And so if Andrew wants to pinch hit for 12A, he certainly can. If not, I'll bring in the C team, which would be me, to pinch hit after Andrew if he decides he wants to.
Oh, let's move forward then. Very good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if you're stuck with me one more time, I wouldn't consider myself the B team. I might be below the C team, but I will do my best here with Bighorn Sheep. Take license tables, agenda item 12A. Very simple change, no changes from the license numbers that were shared last month. This would just be administrative action, but John Canta had mentioned that there was great success in the newly expanded Edgewood, Hell Canyon, and Rapid City unit. And with that, the only change to license numbers would be to increase that from 1 to 2 licenses, which would result in a total of 8 licenses for bighorn sheep hunting, including the auction license. Licenses in Custer State Park, 3 in the Elk Mountain unit, and 0 in the Badlands, and then 2 in that newly expanded unit of Edgewood, Hell Canyon, and Rapid City, and then the 1 single auction license. With that, can take any questions if there are any, and hopefully I didn't miss anything with the licenses for bighorn sheep hunting.
Very good, thank you. Thank you for that, Andrew. Any questions from the commission? Seeing no questions, we do need to move forward to, we need a motion on item number 12, 12A. Move to approve by Commissioner Bartling. Seconded by Commissioner Spring. Any comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So it too is approved and finalized. Very good. Thank you, everyone who chipped in to help out with those. And with that, as I was mentioned, I want to get to some of our folks that have traveled here from across the state. We're going to take item 17 and number 18 immediately following. So, Sean, I see you're here with us. Let's move to number 17 now.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioner, Secretary Roebling. Another concession item for you this month. We have another concession lease that is in its final year. We're approaching expiration, and so we have another prospectus issuance request for you. This one pertains to Dock 44, which is located at Snake Creek Recreation Area, roughly 15 miles west of Platte on Lake Francis Case. We've been, like I said, this is year 10 of this lease. We entered it back in January 2017, and because we're in that expiration period, that requires us to advertise the opportunity via prospectus. The services offered there, we have a marina that supports roughly 45 boats. There's also 10 sailboat moorings in the bay. There is full food and beverage service, restaurant and bar, and convenience store and retail items, as well as 2 small rental cabins. The current franchise fee is set at 5% with an R&M, or repair and maintenance fund, of 1.5%. So again, because we're in expiration, that requires us to do an appraisal of the possessory interest assets. That possessory interest asset base consists of the marina docks that are there, the 2 rental cabins, there's a manager's residence, and then a small garage that are located on site. The main building out of which they operate the restaurant, bar, and C-store is owned by the state. So that's not part of the appraised assets. So we conducted that appraisal, and those are jointly agreed to by us and the concessionaire as far as selection of the appraiser. That was done last fall. That possessor interest value was established at $724,000. And since that time of receiving that appraisal, we have spent the last few months developing a prospectus and writing a draft lease for advertisement to begin here after this commission meeting. We are not proposing many changes to the lease structure. We're going to continue with the required services that are there now, which are the marina slips, which really will be the only change in writing to the required services. At the onset of this existing lease, they supported around 30 boats. They have since added to those dock assets to increase that capacity. So what's being offered there now is what we want to continue as the minimum requirement. We don't want that service level to drop. So we'll continue to require that level of marina service, continue with the requirement for food and beverage, as well as rental cabins and C-store. We are not proposing any changes to the franchise fee structure. We are going to advertise that at 5% as well. And we're going to carry on with the same repair and maintenance reserve of 1.5%. The other required part of the prospectus is that any interested bidders must meet that minimum required investment of the possessory interest and agree to that price. With that, our plan after commission, which is subject to your approval today, we will want to issue that prospectus immediately, as soon as tomorrow, to start that advertisement process. We're looking at a late June deadline, which will give respondents roughly 80 days to put together a proposal and respond to that. Timeline further, we'll have a late June deadline. We'll spend the month of July and August reviewing the proposals received, and ultimately be back to the commission probably at the September meeting for selection and lease approval, should we get a favorable response. So what we need your approval on today is, one, to authorize us to release that prospectus with the terms, with the major lease terms and the timelines discussed with you today. And then, also want to acknowledge in that approval that the final selection of the concessionaire and the final lease is still subject to commission approval in the future. So with that, I would open it up to any questions about Doc 44 or the prospectus process that you might have.
Any questions for Sean?
Yeah.
Commissioner Nyberg?
Yeah, Sean, talk about the lease. Is it a 10-year lease again?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Nyberg, yes. If I failed to mention that, we standard issuance is 10 years on concession leases, so that's what we'll be advertising as a 10-year term.
Thank you.
Additional questions from the commission? Comments from the commission? We do need to take action on the recommendations that Sean laid out. So I'd ask the commission to move forward with a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Bartley.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Call. Any questions or comments on that motion?
Can I ask one more question
Yes.
to Sean? Sean, what, like Custer State Park RFP, are you sensing more interest in this? How many people do you feel are interested in
Through the chair.
applying for the concession?
Thank you, Commissioner Nyberg. Yes, I've had multiple individuals reach out to me over the last year, more local, but there is it's common knowledge that this was coming up for expiration, and it's natural for us to have folks reach out towards expiration to understand when that opportunity might come. But I've heard from, I believe, 3 parties over the course of the last 6 months or so that have expressed an interest in it. So we do believe that there is interest in this opportunity.
I'm a little familiar with Dock 44 over the years. My wife is from Platt, obviously. Any impact, Sean, on the concessions with the growth of competition in the area?
Again, Madam Chair, Commissioner Nyberg, I don't feel as though we've felt that within Dock 44. In fact, I would say over the last 3 to 4 years, revenues have continued to grow. So I believe they're in a better position revenue-wise than they were prior to those campgrounds and other things popping up nearby.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from the commission? We do have a motion before us to move forward with the recommendations laid out by the department. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? It is adopted and moves forward.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And with that, we're gonna move to items 18, Custer State Park Wind and Fire Damage Update.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Secretary Roebling, Matt Snyder, Regional Park Supervisor for Western South Dakota. Here once again to give an update on Blowing in the Wind and now the Quarry Fire. As everybody's aware, it started on December 18th. There we go. We had the historic windstorm move through the area of the Black Hills. Persistent 48 hours of peak gusts, anywhere from 94 miles an hour to 122 miles an hour winds. Did a lot of damage with trees down, power lines down. Park basically was without any power for 6 days. Got it restored right before Christmas. So when you think of that, you gotta remember that when we lose power, we lose phones, we lose internet, we lose everything. So we were basically dead in the water for 6 days. Cell phone coverage was very spotty. Even with the towers we have in the park, they run intermittently on and off their generators. So it was interesting. It was an interesting time. So with that, as we call it, a unified response. I mean, starting on the morning of the 18th, DOT came to our aid. Staff started opening up roads. We had basically the roads open for traffic by the end of the day. We did close the park for a day. And then we continued on with recovery efforts with staff coming from outside the area starting in January 5th and through February. So we had a lot of staff from the department that came out and helped. Department of Transportation stayed with us for the duration of it, with equipment, personnel helping out. Department of Corrections had a crew of anywhere from 8 to 10 inmates pretty much every day coming down out of Rapid City to help us out. Wildland Fire came from across the area to help with even their Black Hat crew, came down and did a lot of labor-intensive work and recovery for us. So just some pictures here. The bottom left would be behind the dam at Sylvan Lake. That was after it was cleared. And if you're familiar with behind the dam at Sylvan Lake, there's nowhere to go with this stuff. So there it sits for right now. Trees on buildings, as you can see, I mean, but spirits were still high. We still had smiles going on during the course of this, and everybody just pitched in and went to work. So part of that unified response for the first couple of weeks of this, when we had people, when we were averaging about 103 people a day, they came from around the state to help us out. And then from mid-January through the end of February, we were averaging about 78 staff a day working in the park to do cleanup. Total staff hours through like that period was over 10,000 hours of staff hours to clean everything up. And then resource management. So what we ended up doing is having selected areas in Sylvan Lake, Center Lake area, and the Game Lodge area where we took all the debris. So staff hauled over 1,400 tons of material to these different locations, and then we entered into a contract with Baker Timber where they came in and basically started grinding the remains. If it was merchantable timber, basically merchantable timber in this case is they're still made into chips and they're sold in Dakota Panel in Rapid City for cabinetry and different things like that. The non-merchantable timber was basically hauled to their yard. There may be a bio plant that could use it to burn it, you know, in the Rapid City area, but we basically had to bear that cost because there's really no value per se by the time they truck it out and everything else. So as you can see here, 15 loads of merchantable chips went to out of the Sylvan Lake, 12 loads of waste chips. And then Camp Remington is off of Needles Highway where the Center Lake stuff went. There's 18 loads of merchantable chips there, another 13 loads of waste, and then we had 4 loads of waste chips out of the Game Lodge area. And then salvage contracts. So we went to work right after the storm hit and started working with our timber staff and saying, okay, what can we do from a salvage standpoint? How do we get this stuff off the landscape? We know we're not gonna make a lot of money off of this. So they went out and put units together. There was a total of 12 different designated areas that they believe were operable. There's other areas in the park that are unoperable to where you couldn't get equipment in, so we didn't even attempt those areas. 5 of the 12 designated areas did get sold. Baker Timber bought 4 units, kind of on the north part of the loop road there. When you're coming up to 16A, they've been working in there for over a month now. And then behind the Coolidge store, they also were working there. So as you can see, they've taken out 2,900 tons, 139 loads of merchantable chips, 45 loads of high pace for them of being able to chip this and get it out of the park. And then just behind the Coolidge store alone is about a 25-acre area. They took out 25 truckloads and pup loads of logs that they ended up chipping. So quite substantial amount of damage in there. And then Morgan Logging, they're basically a whole tree logging operation where they're basically creating firewood. So they've taken out 180 tons to date, and they're more in the southern end of the park off of Highway 87 is where they're working to go. So the other remaining 7 units have not got under contract yet. We're currently working with Baker and Morgan to see if they'll be interested in anything more. It just depends, you know. I mean, right now they're doing what they can. They have other areas that they need to get to as well. A major change over the last, I don't know, I'd probably say 5 to 7 years with the closing of Nyman's Mill and Hill City, excuse me. We've lost a lot of our loggers that used to be logging. I mean, we had loggers galore when we were in the pine beetle era, you know, several years ago, and now they're just kind of, it's a lost business. I mean, they're just not there anymore. And plus, what you gotta remember is, unlike the Legion Lake fire, the logs were salvageable logs that they could make into lumber. They were charred on the outside, but they were salvageable. The logs you're getting out of this windstorm, a lot of them are been twisted and broke, so that takes all the durability for an actual plank to come out of that. The only thing you can really do with it is firewood or make it into chips. Well, you have one contractor that does chipping in the Black Hills, and you got a few firewood vendors, but there's wood galore, you know, wherever you want to go. So we're fortunate just to get these guys. So, and to put it in perspective, when we did the Legion Lake salvage logging, we're averaging $1.50 to $2 a ton for those salvageable logs. Baker is paying us 25 cents a ton. Morgan is paying us 2 cents a ton for what they're getting. And like I said, it wasn't about the money. It was about trying to get this stuff off the landscape. So we're going to continually work with them to see if they'll continue to maybe look at taking some more areas off our hands and continually cleaning things up for us. So, and then there's recovery cost, and this has been asked quite a bit as to what did this cost the park, you know, and there's still things that are going on, but there's a couple different numbers here. So if we start with the FEMA public assistance request there for Custer State Park, just our operation alone, it would have came to $692,000, so just shy of $700,000. The Custer Resort Company, it's state-owned facilities that got damaged, that's $510,000, and that number is going to climb a little bit because as we've gotten into some of those buildings and opened up roofs, we found some additional damage that's going to be repaired. It's under the process now. But then you drop down, and our expenditures to date for the park is $186,000. So the difference in that is when you submit for FEMA reimbursement, FEMA basically gives you a formula for all of your equipment, for all that aspects that goes into it. So that's why that number's grown so much. If it was a normal year, we would have been operating anyhow. So I mean, our true cost to date are more than $186,000 that's coming out of our budget. If we end up with a FEMA reimbursement, you know, we've asked for just shy of that $700,000. The $500,000, over $500,000 for the resort company, that is something that we will pay out. We're doing that through our R&M account. We're going to overexpend our R&M. We talked about that, I think, back in January, and then we will recover those costs through the bond redemption fund where we have money. So that's kind of the impact, and that's where we're at. As you can see, 82 of the resort facilities were impacted in some form or another. Anything from broken windows to roof damage to the electrical masts being pulled off the buildings, the cabins, all the communication lines were taken down, have to be put back up. So quite extensive, but in all honesty, a lot of it's been repaired already. We got a contractor in there right away that was working for the resort company that's been going strong at getting everything repaired and back up to snuff. The 13 facilities we had impacted in the park, I mean, we're pretty much all back to shape. There's a couple buildings we're waiting on for a little bit warmer weather for shingling, so the asphalt shingles would stick, but otherwise, we're gonna be in a good shape for the summer. Okay, and then the Mickelson Trail was also impacted, and the 109 miles of the Mickelson Trail, the 350 miles of the snowmobile program. The Northern Hills crew did a great job of just taking this on themselves. They used a lot of their groomer operators who weren't grooming this winter due to the snow or lack of snow, so went really well. They had a few bridges that had some trees go down, as you can see in the one picture here, but nothing structural. It was more the cosmetic aspect of just putting some new railing up, aspects like that. So the main trail corridor's been open for quite some time, but they're kind of doing that final touches to it. What they call brooming is basically they go in and then we have a broom on the front of a Bobcat that they just lower slightly just to get some of that fine debris off the ground rather than trying to hand rake everything. So that's going well, and the trail's going to be in good shape for this summer. Moving on to our March 13th, the quarry fire, as we call it. Two fires started near the town of Custer on the east side of Custer and burned eastward towards the park. 91,000 acres, or yeah, 9,100 acres burned. Approximately 1,200 acres ended up burning into Custer State Park. We had 0 structures impacted by the fire. The day this started, I believe it was a Thursday afternoon, there was some concern about Bluebell. The lodge and that being in the way of the fire, but the winds kind of changed around and did not become an issue for us. So we did have staff at that time. Basically, we had to evacuate and close everything south of 16A. So we did have a few volunteers that we had to move out for the time being. Resort staff had some people impacted that live around Legion Lake in that area that basically went to the creek side for a few days until they were able to get back in. So, but as far as the fire for us in the park, it came towards Mount Coolidge. Mount Coolidge, just the geographical structure of how that rises in that, the winds swift or change around that. So basically it actually just kind of swirled around and didn't really go much past that. We did have like a 13-acre what we call a slop over Highway 87. They got a dozer line around that. It kind of got held up in some rocks and became a non-issue from that aspect of it. So probably the biggest benefit here is if the head of the fire would have came more south of Mount Coolidge, the winds would have drove it over Highway 87 a lot more, and I think we would have seen a lot more fire on the ground in the park, which we're fortunate in that case. And then for us also in the park, the fire stayed on the ground. We had done some thinning in the years past in this area, so that helped it stay out of the ground. We were not seeing any major large pockets of severity. It did do some natural thinning of some of the jack pine and that, which is a positive thing at the end of the day for us in that area. So there are some places on the Forest Service and private areas where the fire burned very intense, got into some crowns, and you are going to see some larger pockets of trees that got burned up in those areas. So, and then we lost 3 miles of our fence on the west side. Staff are currently in the process of putting that back together. We lost 13 miles, over 13 miles in the Legion Lake fire, so we're getting pretty good at coming back in. And what we do is we go back in with metal. So if we ever have fire again, the fire's going to burn right through the fence rather than burn up the fence. So in some of these areas we're basically due for some work anyhow. So we actually had some money in a capital development budget to do fence repair. We've just shifted that money to basically cover the cost of this 3 miles. So, and then the personnel in the fire, By the time it was all said and done, at the height of the activity, there was 319 personnel. This time of the year in the Black Hills, you have very few firefighters because you don't have all your seasonal crews on that yet. So we had crews from all across the state come out. We had our own staff managing crews, which is typical of us. We have our own fire guard in the park that assists wildland fire when things like this happen. And then U.S. Forest Service had crews that they brought in from all across the nation, basically. There are crews in the park from South Carolina, Oregon, Montana, et cetera, that came, whether they were Forest Service personnel, volunteer fire departments from across the nation, from across the state came out and helped. Everybody just comes. It's just a major mutual aid call, and then they stayed around for several weeks after that, just mopping up and making sure everything was going to stay where it needed to be. Biggest things we kept experiencing was high winds after the fire, you know, and that's what drove the fire to begin with. And then just park readiness, just overall with the fire, with the windstorm, the trails, roads, everything's open right now. We're still doing some fine tuning of some cleanup. Campgrounds, visitor centers are ready for people. Actually, the Bison Center opened up the first part of April on weekends now. Visitor centers open year round. Game Lodge and French Creek Horse Camp are open right now. They stay open year round as well, but we did see quite an increase in campers in March. You'll see that tomorrow when Jeff reports on that. The resorts will open up on May 1st this year out at the park. And then, yeah, we're preparing just like a normal season with staff orientation on the 11th and just ready for normal use. So, you know, I'd be lying if I didn't say staff are tired, but the staff out there in the park are resilient. We've been through stuff like this before. Like I kind of joke, it's just a matter of tying your shoes a little bit tighter in the morning and you go, you know, and I honestly can say morale's been good. Everybody just pitched in and did what they needed to do, and just the help we received from other agencies and from across the department, the wildlife and fisheries guys that came out, it was just phenomenal. The equipment they brought, everybody just came out ready to work. Where do we need to go? And just the coordinated effort that the park put together every day, just to know how to, you know, where we put crews, and everybody was accounted for. You have 10,000 hours of doing this kind of technical cutting and hauling without any injuries. Says a lot for the people that came out and just the all-around professionalism of everybody. So I can't express my gratitude enough for all the assistance and the help we've gotten from all the agencies and the staff in the department. It was truly a Team GFMP effort that came together, and hopefully we don't have to relive this anytime soon. So with that, I'd stand by for any questions.
Any questions for Matt? Commissioner Bartling?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Matt. When they cleared the trees away, did they also grind like the stumps, or are those stumps just gonna be a part of the landscape, or? Because I know that's expensive to do, to grind stumps out.
Through the chair, Commissioner Bartling, the stumps in the day use areas, we've ground out, and the majority of them are done. We do have some root balls in the day use areas that we've had to remove. I think there's approximately about 60 of them that will get hauled to a landfill yet, so we're gonna increase some cost on that yet. But those root balls in some of the natural areas, they're gonna be there. There's nothing we can do with them. Some of, if they were in some of the salvage areas, the trees got cut from them, but they'll just become part of the landscape and eventually disappear someday. But yeah, so.
Additional questions? Commissioner Spring?
You told about rebuilding the fence, you said it was all steel. You drive a pipe, and what type of wire are you using, or what?
Through the chair. Commissioner Springs, yeah, we drive pipe in. Basically, we're not digging any holes. We got pounders on our Bobcats that we use, our skid steers. It's usually a more high tensile woven wire that we put on, and then we'll usually do a cable on top of it. So if the elk jump over, especially on the west side, it's not as high as on the east side where we're trying to keep the elk in. West side, they're going back and forth onto the Forest Service. But we'll usually put a cable on the top of it too, so if they do jump on it, it's not squishing it down, so.
What height is that you're building new?
I wanna say on the west side, it's probably gonna be close to a 5-foot fence, so.
Additional questions from the commission and or comments? I do have just one question, and I don't know if you're able to answer it, but first, thank you to you and the team and all of those that are outside of the department. I know it sounds like it's been grueling, so thank you.
Yes.
With the RFP process going on, have you ran into any questions or concerns or challenges with all of the fire and the wind storm?
No, I mean, no, nothing's come in that I've seen, defer to Sean, no, nobody, you know, and we have our tour next week. I don't think they're going to notice a whole lot, to be honest with you, and that's kudos to the staff and what they were able to clean up. We see it, we understand what's not right, but, you know, I think to a lot of the general public coming in, it's, yeah, there's just gonna be some areas that look a little bit more open, and why do those trees look like a candlestick? Well, because they broke off that way, you know, so, yeah, but no, I don't think there's gonna be any impact. It's still gonna be a beautiful park. We're just praying for rain, because we're still awful dry.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions, comments, Secretary?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam, thank you once again. I know I acknowledged this, the managers conference you had just this week, and yeah, this is a true definition of Team GFP at its finest. When you see, you know, men and women across the state helping each other out, you know, really just tackling the task at hand, and really proud of the team. We have endured some pretty good challenges the last few months. Matt, thank you for shepherding that. Lydia, Jason as well, he's not here today. But that's a testament to the leadership of this group, of the folks out in Custer State Park. It is the crown jewel. There's a lot of, obviously, eyes and attention on that crown jewel all the time. And I'm just proud of the team for responding the way we did. I think a lot of the work you showcased here and a lot of the work that wasn't even showcased, when visitors come to the park, and they already are coming to the park, they're really not going to notice a lot of change, a lot of difference, with the exception of a few less trees. But the cleanup efforts have really mitigated what it did look like on December 18th. So just want to say thanks once again. And keep up the good work, and let's have a great summer of 2026 in Custer State Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Secretary. And with that, we are going to, oh, yes, please, Commissioner.
Just out of order, it's ever been
No,
done
please,
before.
go. No. Well done, thank you. With that, we are going to take a 5-minute break, and when we come back, we are only going to take up 2 more items, 14 and 15, and then we will be done for the day. So 5 minutes, we will be at ease.
Recording stopped.
Yeah, that was great, that was great.
Buying a license. I would tap Simpson on that. No, what do you need?
Who you might do these
Simpson.
guys? I just found something. I wanted to update. That's for my CBB.
Okay. No, fine, but.
You want to pass that
That's probably right. Yeah, but it's only the side. What's that? No, this is not well, not so yeah, you want to have just a smaller piece of
Anybody that hits that plus your age and hit 200, you get whichever one you want. I guarantee you there won't be 10 people on the stage. The rule of 200.
Sam did invite all of you.
Okay, is that his? Hey,
It's on them too.
200?
I don't like your idea.
What,
What about that?
what did you invite us to?
The rule of 200.
You kind of had a hectic day today.
Oh, there, okay. That's 5:30? Okay.
They replaced, this room, they replaced all the sound stuff.
Thank you.
Just so that you didn't test it when you got the waste.
So, we finally have that.
And all these mics, you just need a bullet too.
If your preference points are 8 or 4, you're automatic.
Well,
Find something, or if you find something that's wrong with that.
We just drive through Salem, going through Falls, Iowa, it's gonna be 200.
Yep.
Asphalt.
So in other words, this
Or
person
concrete,
has
whichever
to
it was, no, it doesn't matter how many people. But
No, this
anyway,
is one person.
I didn't catch, are you the secretary?
There's 79 people in the lobby.
Do the.
Then they can, but there can't be.
You know what I appreciated throughout my career, and I expressed this to both these guys, I really appreciate when somebody comes forward with this, completely saucer me off.
It's not.
I mean, it just absolutely shows up as selfishness, and I get it.
I have preference points for licenses that don't exist. Come on,
CLE.
do we have one now?
It'll never come back.
What's the, we just had a month ago, in the some places we go to the meet, I went off the circle of the meeting. Which one? Yeah.
He's gone in there.
That's what I want.
Really?
Wow.
Archery L. Was that any else or was it any else?
Actually,
But usually we gotta get a second.
Got a good office win.
You never got to see anything.
At least do that.
Yeah, if anybody's got a business as a youth. You really don't want to hear it.
Lady.
Right, but we have that.
well, yeah, and the other thing, my firm belief, I mean, have to hear
My friend. Yeah, it's my friend in Wisconsin.
I really, anything, the applicant's process that we have. And the prices of time, all should be higher. All of us. For here now.
I don't know how.
You know, I remember having that argument.
Yeah, that's where I was getting.
So that's where I thought it would, so check that.
At least it was last.
This was the
So, 600 people walk, we're gonna I didn't know if they could get it at 4. I mean, that's a place to start.
That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think we but we certainly anymore.
So they'll be time. We looked at them.
You know, whatever they all, French Creek Crossing down there, you may license. Needs to go Ken, and the ones that I think
It could be bad down there. Way down there.
We're not ready. We need space enough in that.
Say it's okay. Got this. Yeah.
McKinney Independence.
And then I know that there's a long story there, I got it. So, but I know Matt's got it.
Now they're gonna have to say something.
Yeah. It's just a few. And I actually got a picture of three of the straws that were caught in Center Lake.
Okay.
I called him back because I know him. And I'm like, yeah, he's got a photo, it's in there. He was like, I know we have a spinner, so I think. Yeah, I think our timeline is ramped up. I mean, we're prepared for it.
Give permission.
She's got
I don't want to know. I get myself into my own trouble. You don't want to know. Good morning when you show up. It's right at the end. Yeah, I've had a rough day.
Yeah, you get it in your steps.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm used to coaching softball every day, and they're playing today, so I don't have any exercise. Yeah. Varsity high school team. I'm assistant, one of them. Nobody else will do it, and it's unpaid too. So I got a lot of side gigs that are paid nothing.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Like I've been playing in a band. I've been playing in a band for 30 years. Someday I'll be 100 there from all the money I've made playing live music. Imagine 100 there. 100. A room full of nickels.
1 minute, everyone, 1 minute.
Stop bossing me around.
1 minute. I follow your lead.
Huh?
It is, okay. I always wonder if you're this person delivering. Yeah. He is. I know. Right next to you. It is, and the walls are very thin.
I think
Right there. Right there, it's like 60 of them.
Are you ready, sir? Are you ready?
I guess.
It's left.
Ready?
Yep, all right, everyone, we're gonna go ahead and get started. All right, and we are back live.
Recording in progress.
We are gonna jump right back into the two items I mentioned before we went to ease. Number 14, walleye spawning 2026. Is Jacob gonna, or Jake joining us virtually? Yes?
Yes, Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hooray.
Very good. Excellent. Well, I'm sharing my screen. Is the presentation showing up?
It is. You are good to go ahead and get started.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Secretary Roebling. I'm Jake Davis, I'm a Fisheries Program Administrator. This afternoon, to give you a brief update on one of the big tasks that Aquatics takes on every spring, and they generally start in April, and that would be our walleye spawning efforts. I'm also going to cover briefly some of the fish stocking that's occurred at this point, with a lot more coming in the next 6 to 8 weeks. But first, just to cover our spawning efforts, where does that start? And our walleye spawning efforts start every year with the stocking requests. So these stocking requests are numbers that our managers put together at each of our 5 fish management areas. These are the numbers of walleye and sockeye, numbers that they like to stock in certain waters. Just for a little bit of clarification, a sockeye, if folks aren't familiar, that's a hybrid between a walleye and a sauger. And so those are 2 species we have in South Dakota, and in certain cases, that hybrid, that sockeye, has been a better product to stock than a walleye. So we do stock some of those as well. So our managers get together with staff, they review standard sampling protocols, numbers from previous years. They assess winter kill scenarios, and then additionally a number of waters are on an annual stocking schedule, say every other year. So these numbers are put together by staff in the wintertime. They help us determine what our egg needs are going to be for the year. So these are the requests that we have for 2026. They're broke down into fried and then juvenile. Juvenile can be fish from say 1 to 5 to 9 inches, and really anything other than a fried product. So for walleyes, we're looking at stocking just over 43 million. These would be into 45 waters across the state. For juvenile, just over 4 million into 37 waters. And then as far as sockeye go, fewer numbers here again, but looking at just under 300,000 fry in 3 waters and just under 300,000 juveniles in 9, for a grand total of just over 46.5 million walleye and sauger into 94 waters across the state. So how do we get the eggs to raise these fish essentially? We go out into the wild and collect wild stock. We do not hold brood stock at our hatchery, so essentially we don't hold adults year round to then spawn and get the things we need for spawning. We go out into wild systems to collect those eggs. And so the waters that we will be going into this year will all be East River. There'll be 9 of them. Those waters include Alice, Lynn, Middle Lynn, Clear, Twin, West 81, Brush, Sinai, and Blue Dog Lakes. We also work with some of our neighboring states to secure some eggs. In a lot of cases, this is a trade where we may provide another product from a hatchery of ours. We have 3 states that we're working with this year, eggs from Nebraska, Minnesota, and Iowa. In the end, we're looking to take in about 93 million eggs into our facilities this year to reach that goal of stocking to get all of the walleye and saugeye that we need for the systems across South Dakota. So once we go and collect those eggs, hasn't started yet, will be very soon, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But once we collect those eggs, where do they go? Well, with the advances that we've made with our hatchery system, they now go to all of our state-run hatcheries. This didn't always used to be the case. Blue Dog State Fish Hatchery would take all the walleye eggs that we would take in a spawning year. However, now we've expanded those capabilities, so now the 2 hatcheries in western South Dakota also receive walleye eggs for rearing. So the plan for this year is that Blue Dog will receive the vast majority of those eggs, especially because we're spawning in the eastern portion of the state. It's just a lot easier for those eggs to be transported to the close facility, and they're also set up to handle more of them. Blue Dog will raise fry for us, as well as 1 and 8-inch products. Those will be raised in the ponds that exist at Blue Dog. Those fish will then be stocked in eastern South Dakota waters, Shade Hill Reservoir in the northwest, and also some waters in central South Dakota. There will be some eggs taken to Cleghorn Springs. These will be eggs from Nebraska. Products that will be raised at Cleghorn will be 3, 5, and 9-inch juveniles. They will be raised in recirculating aquaculture systems. And they will be stocked in western and central South Dakota. Now, McDade, where I'm currently sitting right now, will also be raising some walleye. They will be raising 5 and 9-inch product, and those will again be raised in recirculating aquaculture systems. Those eggs will also come from the state of Nebraska. Those will be stocked in the northeastern South Dakota. We also work with our federal partners in Gavin's Point National Fish Hatchery. We will receive some fry and 1-inch product from them. Those fish will be stocked in the Angostura Reservoir and then also Lake Oahe. So again, we have a number of facilities that handle these walleye eggs once they're collected from the wild, and they raise a variety of products for us both in ponds and also in recirculated aquaculture systems. So with walleye spawning not quite starting, this is just basically giving you a plan of what we're going to be doing here in the coming weeks. I did want to highlight though on some fish stockings that have occurred. Basically, as soon as ice leaves South Dakota, we have staff that start heading into the field to start looking at our waters. In a lot of cases, we're checking to see if there's any winter kill, or we're just looking to see where we can start moving some fish around. One thing that we do quite often here in the spring is what we call trap and transfer. What we do here is we go into a natural setting, lake or reservoir, where we may have an abundance of a certain game species that we want to move and take to another water body. For example, we may have a small impoundment that has a high abundance of black crappie. We're able to go in and remove a number of those fish to to stock in other waters. It doesn't impact the water that we've taken those fish from, and then the waters that we stock those crappie, for example, in, get the benefit of having those fish. One of the nice things is that we're often moving adult fish. The reason that this is a big thing at this time of year is twofold. By moving adult fish at this time of year, they're often pre-spawn, and so if we put them in the water, we're often getting that spawning potential that they possess as being adults. And then additionally, they're what we would consider recruited to the adult and harvestable population. So essentially, as soon as we stock an adult, they're available to a user to catch. And so we get a couple of good benefits by moving fish this time of year. And so really we get at it as soon as we can, and that'll continue here into May. So at this point, as of yesterday, we've stocked a handful of species across the state. Right now, black crappie, just over 2,100. Those have gone into 9 different waters. Channel catfish, just over 1,600 fish into 9 different waters. We were able to get the Chinook salmon off station and stocked into Oahe. Over 600,000 fingerlings went in, juveniles, so that was a big effort. We've also moved to northern pike. A lot of rainbow trout have left our cold water facilities, and then also we've moved quite a few yellow perch as well. Now, I do want to mention that a lot of these trap and transfer adults are going into our urban and community fisheries, so really helping us focus on providing high-quality fisheries in and around urban and population centers for individuals to catch there. We have a lot more to come here in the next month and a half, but right now we've got a pretty good head start on it. So I did want to talk about some of the fish that have already started moving around the state. Now, for users that are interested on determining where we're putting these fish, I mentioned 9 waters, for example. Well, if you want to see what those 9 waters are, or if you want to look and see if we've stocked a water body in the area that you live or like to fish, where that information is shared is on our website. So if you go to the Game Fish and Parks website and click on the Fish tab, we have a location there called Fish Stockings in the last 14 days. If you click on that, you'll be able to see where we've stocked fish, what water bodies in the last 2 weeks. It's an excellent resource, especially at a time like this when we've got stockings occurring basically every day of the week. It's being updated every day, and so if you want to check and see if your favorite water body has received any fish, or if you want to just see if there's anything close that's received fish, this is where you go to do that. So again, just the way that we get this information out to the users so they're aware. Now, just want to cover, again, this is kind of an update, not necessarily a summary. Hopefully that'll happen next month at the commission meeting, but just want to talk about our spawning plans and also some of our future stockings. But the walleye spawning efforts that I mentioned before, those eastern South Dakota lakes, we're looking at starting this weekend essentially. We'll have staff from all around the state that assist with this effort. They'll be heading on the road, and basically what will happen is we set trap nets in these different water bodies, run them every day, and then we collect those eggs in the field. Everything gets either fertilized in the field or back at Blue Dog State Fish Hatchery, for example. There's some long days for staff. For example, our hatchery staff have to wait until all the nets are run and those eggs are moved to the hatchery before they can get them where they need to be. But it's also a lot of fun. But again, it's a big effort that's going to start here in just a couple days. I also want to extend an invite to the commissioners if you'd like to attend some of these spawning efforts and see what goes into collecting eggs in the field. We'd really like to show you. If you're interested, please reach out to myself or John Lott, and we can put you in touch with an office that you can go with. On really nice days, it can be a lot of fun. I will admit, on cold, rainy days, it may not be quite as much fun. However, you get to see a lot of fish, in a lot of cases, some quite large fish, and it's really a very enjoyable time. So if anybody's interested, please let us know, and we can provide that opportunity. So again, we haven't taken any eggs in the state yet, but here in the coming days, that should change. We should start seeing eggs enter our hatchery really just in a matter of days. One of the other efforts that we do is paddlefish spawning. This is coordinated out of our Chamberlain office. Again, if anybody's interested in participating in this, please reach out to John or myself, and we can get you in touch with staff there. Also a lot of fun getting to work with paddlefish, a very unique and really just a cool species. So we can provide more information or opportunities in that. So that'll be happening next month, so nothing to worry about at this time, but did want to put it on folks' radars. Now, as far as fish stockings, those will continue to happen here for the next 6 to 8 weeks. Those will come from a variety of areas. So our state hatchery, certainly we still got a lot of cold water fish on station at our cold water facilities. But then also these walleye and sockeye, once they get brought on station, they'll start leaving, depending on how long or what size product they are, they'll start leaving, say, very quickly in a matter of days after they hatch for fry. Some of those larger fingerling products or juvenile products, they'll stay longer, but those stockings will occur basically throughout the spring and then into the fall. Also, as far as traffic transfer, that'll continue to happen while water temps are still cool here in April and May. We'll take advantage of opportunities where we see them to move around any number of species to any number of waters. But again, putting a lot of effort on our urban community fisheries. And then additionally, we'll be getting some fish from other states. The benefit here is that when we can do some fish trading, if you will, with other states, we don't necessarily have to have all those species on station. An example of that would be largemouth bass. We don't generally raise largemouth bass in our hatcheries from hatching. However, other states do, and we can work out different scenarios where we may provide rainbow trout and they may provide us largemouth bass. So again, a lot of good coordination happens with states in the Midwest, and we're able to get a lot of species that we don't necessarily have to have in our hatcheries, but we can work out some kind of agreement. So we just wanted to cover the fish spawning and fish stocking that's going to be occurring here in the next month and a half. Again, a lot of it hasn't happened yet, but it will be, so I want to provide an update on that. And Madam Chair, with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Very good, thanks, Jake. Any questions for Jake and or comments? Good information, impressive, and I think a lot of anglers will be looking forward to more information as it becomes available, so thank you for that. And with that, we'll move to our final item, number 15, the Peatling and Son Shooting Complex update from Mr. John Canto.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, and Secretary Roebling. Sorry, I'm getting an echo. I'll work through this. Are you getting an echo on your side?
Yes, we are, a little bit, yeah. Did we lose John?
No, he's there.
He muted.
Okay, so you guys can hear me.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think what we might do, rather than, I don't know how difficult it is gonna be to fix this. Any suggestions, Mr. Hall, for John?
John, do you have
Chris,
do you have a TV on or something in there? No, now talk, John.
Yeah, we've got the Teams room. Yep. Got it. I think that's gonna do it, Chris. Okay.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, yes.
Winner. All right, go ahead.
Sorry about that, Madam Chair. So yeah, John Canto, Terrestrial Section Chief, and I want to talk to you today about the Peatling and Son Shooting Sports Complex. I've got Mike Kozowski here, Regional Supervisor, with me. We're going to cover just a few topics here and kind of bounce around on you between the two of us, just share some information with you. And there's lots of excitement out here. We've been open just over 5 months now, and folks are coming out in large numbers and lots of excitement, like I said. And with that, we're getting lots of compliments and folks just loving this place, which is great. So I'm excited to be talking to you about this today. So you can see there, we're just gonna, we pulled out some things that we thought might be of interest to you. We could talk about a lot of stuff going on out here, but we'll just cover these and then take some questions at the end and give you a little update here. So yeah, just going over visitation and sales, summer hours, and then we'll talk about some competitions that we have scheduled and law enforcement participation out here. And then we just want to highlight some of the most popular attractions on the out here as well. So next slide, please, Chris. Okay, very good. So just kind of a recap of where we're at with visitations and sales out here since we opened up in early November there. So you can see there in those first bullet points, we're close to 700 memberships that we've sold this far in the first 5 months. And you can see total sales there just over $80,000. You'll recall the commission, or some of you I should say would recall the commission back in July in 25 here passed these membership fee costs and such. And so yeah, that's what we're selling here is these annual memberships, family. And then you can see on there as well, we do have some businesses that are coming out and purchasing memberships or passes to do shoots out at the facility. And then of course we have some competitions that there's some fees associated with. And then the play targets that we have out here. So we recoup some of those costs by charging folks for the clay birds that they're shooting on the shotgun areas. And then last, we do have a very little bit of merchandise out here that we sell, just some patch shirts and microfiber towels. So right now, total sales, including all those things that we're offering out here, we're just at about $100,000 that we've collected in the first 5 months. So again, lots of excitement, lots of people coming out, and with that then some money coming in. So to date, we're at just over 26,000 visitations, and that's just the South Range kind of general use. We do have competitions going on, law enforcement agencies coming out, and other folks doing some different events and things like that. So right now, we're over 30,000 visitations, again, in the first 5 months. And to put that into perspective, Mike and I were asked to estimate, when we were trying to plan this facility and what we need for maintenance and operation and how it's gonna work and all of that, we looked around at some other ranges, we crunched some numbers based on populace and visitation at those ranges, and our best guess was that annually we would see 30,000 visitations. And so we're already there in 5 months of operation. Now, I'll qualify that we've had a very mild winter out here and some nice days for folks to come out. So that might look a little different if we had some cold and snow. But nonetheless, it goes to show you what I said at the beginning. Lots of excitement, lots of energy, folks wanting to come out here and shoot. Weekend days, as you can probably imagine, that those are busier days for us. The nice weather drives attendance. If we have nice weather on the weekends, we have lots of shooters. Some days if it's blowing and snowing or whatever, we do still have people that come out to shoot, and typically we're still averaging about 20 to 40 shooters per day on those days. An average week with decent weather right now, we're just at about closing in on about 1,500 visitors a week there. And then a busy week for us, the busiest, has been close to 3,000. So you can see that there, 2,770. So yeah, again, lots of excitement, lots of folks coming out. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, so far, we've had space for everyone. So we wanted to build this big and be able to accommodate a lot of disciplines, a lot of different shooting sports and such. And so far, that's not been a problem. Even with these big number of days, people are finding places to shoot. They're not having to wait. And a good example is today. And I do apologize for missing the Bighorn Sheep update. I didn't realize I was double scheduled with the Defense and Industry Symposium. So they were doing a anti-drone demonstration on our North Range, and I was speaking there and helping to lead that presentation this afternoon. And so while that was going on, we've been averaging today, I'm out at the Shooting Sports Complex, we've been averaging about 40 to 50 shooters all day long on the South Range, the Defense and Industry Symposium up north there, and then we also have a number of our law enforcement officers here training and qualifying, and they're on several bays on the North Range, and we still have room. If somebody else wanted to be in here, we could accommodate. So far that's been really nice for me to see. We wanted to build this to accommodate all, and so far it's looking really good, and we are.
Yeah, and just kind of add a little bit to what John had mentioned there. So busy week, we had March 16th to the 22nd, roughly around 2,770 visitors is what we would, look at for that week. Very busy week. We anticipate this summer, especially when we have good weather, Saturdays or Sundays, we anticipate having some days where we're gonna have 1,000 people visiting us throughout the day. So really a lot of great use and excitement, and just have a lot of people when they come in just talking about how well received it is, and just lots of different options there for people to utilize the range. So it's been great. And as John had mentioned, we're looking right now, we're actually gonna be changing over to our summertime hours. Right now, we're still in our wintertime hours. Range opens up at 8:30 in the morning, closes at 4:30 PM in the afternoon. And on May 1st, we're gonna switch over to summertime hours. We're still gonna work, we're still gonna open up at 8:30 in the morning, but we will be open till later, till 7:30, which is gonna be really nice. Those extended summertime hours for folks. Maybe after work, we're gonna be able to get out, do a little bit of shooting after work. And then, of course, on the weekends too, you'll be able to shoot till 7:30. So maybe there might be a break during the hot part of the day or something like that, and then be able to shoot maybe a couple hours before it gets, or when it starts to cool down a little bit. So that will be, it'll be a big lift for staff, but we're looking forward to getting folks out here for those periods of time.
Just continuing on with what we're seeing for visitation and use out here, what we've got listed up on this slide, and I won't read all of them, but this is just a few of the events and competitions that we have scheduled. That was one thing we wanted to do once we opened the doors, was make sure that folks were out here using this facility, and with that then also do some of these other events and such. And you can see, so as an example, this weekend we have the Prairie Thunder Steel Challenge, so that's one of the shoots where they'll be moving and shooting steel. Prairie Thunder is a local club that has really kind of attached themselves to the facility here. And I can tell you they have competitions scheduled almost every weekend from now through fall. So lots of excitement there, and gonna be lots of use. And you can see on there some other ones that I'll point out. We have the NRA American Rifle Challenge. There will be a regional competition that they're kicking off here at our facility. So we'll see several hundred shooters there in that. And we also have the Rushmore Championship, so that's USPSA, again, that moving and shooting. We'll be hosting that championship here as well, and we expect 300 to 400 competitors there. Some that aren't on this list that I just quickly wanted to mention was Glock, one of our big sponsors. They have the Glock Shooting Sports Foundation, and they'll be doing a competition shoot in the fall in September out here, and we expect 150 to 200 competitors with that as well. And then we are also doing an event in late June here. It'll be the weekend of the 26th, 27th, 28th of June. We're going to do what we're calling a sponsor spotlight. So we'll invite all of our sponsors that supported construction and opening of this facility to come out and allow for product demos, product giveaways, tell a little bit about their organizations, and have folks come in and visit and get to try the different products and shoot. And just a fun event over the weekend that we can give back to our sponsors and recognize them, but also then provide a really neat opportunity for the general public out here. So lots going on, lots on the schedule, and we're already booking stuff for 2027.
Yeah, real quick, great response from our law enforcement partners. We have quite a few folks in the area that have been working with us, and it's just been a great partnership. They're very appreciative of the facility out here, and I think it's going to be a partnership that we're going to see for quite a number of years to come. And a common theme with most of the law enforcement out here shooting is one that's a great facility, and two is just very much needed. They're basically saying they're out of options of places where they can do their training in a safe manner and have a facility that can support that. So it's been very well received. There's some partners right there, but there's obviously more than that even, just to give you kind of an example. And real quick, I know we're kind of getting running out of time here, but just wanted to mention a couple of things that we've noticed out here that has been quite popular. And the first thing that we've noticed is the rimfire and airgun only bathe. And you can see right here in this picture down below, you can see that's what it looks like. This area here is just that, open to rimfire only and air guns. So typically what you're seeing out here is 22 caliber rifles out here shooting. And surprisingly, there's just a lot of folks with air guns that really want to hone their craft and be able to see what they can shoot. So as you're looking at the first row of targets there, that's 25 yards. If you're looking at the second row, that's going to be 50 yards. You've got kind of like a carnival-like target gallery that you can shoot. There's all kinds of different things out there for people to shoot. I'll show a couple pictures real quick on that. One of the things, or a few of the things that we're seeing with this rimfire being so popular, it's popular both with youth and adults. The ammunition is very inexpensive. Easy shooting rifles, no recoil, not going to be loud. And a big aspect of this also is shooting long range with 22s out to 100, 200, and 300 yards. And there's quite a bit of interest, and we're actually potentially looking at utilizing some of our space here to potentially put on some of those types of matches or have some areas available to do some of that. So. And here's a couple close-ups real quick of those targets that are on the rimfire bay. You can see the one on the right, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Kids love it, adults love it. They love hearing that noise when they hit it, and then of course they like to pick out their targets. You can see on the left side there you've got a raccoon, and then if you've got what is called know your limits, where essentially it starts out with a 2-inch steel circle and goes all the way down to the diameter of a 22 bullet. And of course, folks like to see what they can do and how many shots does it take them to get it all the way down to that lowest level.
This has been so well received that we're looking at setting up another one on one of the other bays. So it's as Mike said, lots of excitement on this range.
Yeah, the other thing real quick, the 200 and 300 yard steel bay. So you can see on the picture on the left side of the screen there, the first set of targets, that's 200 yards. The second set of targets, that's 300 yards. And we have 40 different shooting positions out there, so there's room for everybody to shoot. People really love an interactive target, and they can hear it, they can see it, and it also is very functional in a way that, and makes it very efficient, because nobody has to go down range to change targets or bring targets, staple targets. So it really makes for, when folks show up, they can simply just come in and start shooting away. Every morning staff are out there spray painting the steel targets to make sure that everything's in good condition, ready to go for the day. I think a lot of folks in this bay right here, a lot of them are hunters, and a lot of that distance at 200 and 300 yards is maybe what they're shooting deer or antelope or prairie dogs or other critters out there on the countryside. So, and it's certainly a stepping stone for our long range bay, which is quite popular as well.
So with that, Madam Chair, we would certainly take any questions. If I could just take a second, I guess I'd really like to pat Mike on the back here and give him a huge thank you. Mike and all of the staff out here and even in our other sections have done a tremendous job of getting this place up and running and keeping it, the operation and maintenance, as you mentioned, we've got a lot of stuff to do just to get it set up each day. So just a pat on the back to him and all of the staff. And they're just doing a phenomenal job, so thank you.
Very good, thank you, John and Mike. Any questions for either regarding the shooting complex? I do have one question. With the increase in visitors, are we looking at, are we gonna need to increase staff over the warmer months? Nope. Phone a friend.
Madam Chair, Tom Kirschman, Director of the Wildlife Division. So the simple answer is yes. We are putting plans together and what are the staffing needs, certainly when you open to later hours, as Mike was alluding to there. Just the number of bodies we need from the building itself to visiting with people to making sure everything's operating and functioning properly. The weekends, yes, we'll have to have even likely a few more staff just based on the volume of folks that come through and the work that goes, in particular on some of those more hands-on ranges like the shotgun ranges where you have the targets and the machines working, stuff like that. So yeah, and part of it is we're learning every day as we go also. You know, brand new facility, we're not even getting into the busy season yet, but every day or every week that it gets warmer, we see higher level of folks participating and coming out. So we're figuring out all those things as we go, but the simple answer is yes, we're gonna need a few more bodies. We're looking at it from seasonal staff, and we're working on volunteers to help in some of those areas to help with some of those needs of extra hands and bodies out there. So we're learning as we go, but yes, we are addressing that as we move forward.
Very good, thank you for that answer. Any other questions from the commission and or comments? Seeing none, Secretary.
I just wanted to, thank you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to say thank you to the staff, John and Mike and many, many others. It is a phenomenal facility, something we're all very proud of, and it's incredible to see those visitation numbers already at 30,000. We haven't even hit the summer months yet, and I can only imagine what that's going to bring for visitation, excitement, and visitors from all over the country, really. So that's impressive. Keep up the great work out there. For the sake of time, I will leave it at that. But great job, everyone. Appreciate it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And with that, we will wrap things up for today. Thank you to the commission and to Team GFMP for your work. We were able to accomplish a lot this afternoon. We will kick things back up again tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Central Time. Until then, we will be at ease until 8 a.m.